2024 was a wild year that hardly seemed real as everybody was losing their minds.
I just wanted to...
As their heavy-handed response went all throughout the day. But sadly, the prestige of going to UCLA isn't what it used to be. As I went to UCLA, it was for a breakdance battle, then go perform on stage with basically a photoshopped Hollywood version of Decoy voice. Because I literally looked like if that K-pop star became a homeless addict, and then Netflix did a reenactment of him hitting rock bottom. But then they used that Hulu casting director that saw Blake Griffin from the Clippers and said, yeah, this guy seems close enough.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. Eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat.
Now this isn't so much a highlight reel as it's just a montage of madness that was 2024, as we witnessed plenty of idiots finding out, the most insane presidential campaign ever, and a plague of social media degeneracy that we're finally starting to see subside. Now we didn't make it to 1 million this year, but that's alright, as we're finally starting to get noticed by the more important people on the internet.
There's a channel called Decoy Voice, which is like a great political channel.
This video comes from Decoy Voice. Like his stuff. Let's check it out.
Hey, Decoy Voice is in the chat. We're gonna get him on the show sometime.
This YouTuber is called Decoy Voice, and he really spells it out.
Joining us tonight to talk about these things and so much more is Decoy Voice.
I came to LA to be closer to Decoy Voice.
Okay. So maybe that last one didn't happen exactly like that, but it really seems like people don't want to spend all their time doom scrolling through social media when you can just watch Decoy Voice instead, for that concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality. So subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy one last recap of 2024 that we only wish we could ignore.
Do we need men? Do women need men in this world? You need a man?
No.
You need a man?
Oh, God.
You need men?
No.
Why?
A masked teen approaches a college student.
And the suspect demanded her phone before flashing the gun. The pair got into a tussle.
I was grabbing for maybe my phone, maybe the gun. It's really like a blackout moment for me.
In Los Angeles, a woman fleeing a traffic stop drives through Venice Beach and actually floors it into the ocean. But what everybody's really asking, why would she go to those great lengths of endangering her doggos, destroying her BMW, and potentially being taken by Poseidon himself, if the only thing she was escaping was a speeding ticket? Now normally Reddit is only nonsense, but this reply says that he knew a guy that also drove off a pier in a police chase because he was moving large quantities of substances and wanted to quickly flush them into the ocean. Now I'm not saying getting involved in those trades is smart, but I could see how doing 6 months for endangerment is infinitely better than the 20 years for trying to move weight without a government contract. As the riots in Haiti have brought the country close to collapse, journalists have sought to interview the Haitian gang leader named Barbecue, who ominously looks very well fed. That being said, it now looks like Donut Operator from YouTube is considering coming to his rescue, to which if anybody could take over a small country, it would probably be the guy behind YouTuber events like this, to which I've never received an invite to, and although I've never shared on this channel, but I was a Sergeant First Class in both Battlefield on Xbox 360 and Call of Duty on iPhone when I was grounded. So Donut Operator, my DMs are open. Maybe not for the whole storming Haiti and overthrowing a cannibal warlord, but maybe just regular Texas barbecue. In San Francisco, California, unemployed behavior takes over yet another street. But unfortunately, a car broke down, so for some reason, the EBT tribes decided to torch it. As just because they can't afford shoes, they think they were you from Street Fighter 2. But sadly, San Francisco isn't the only city in California that's subjected to this unemployed nonsense. As all over Los Angeles, they see similar street takeovers that also have begun to take over random residents' homes.
I'd be hella mad if I was in. Oh, I swear to God, if that was my house, I'd be tripping.
That always seem to end up in mass looting scenes, as this time they took over an auto zone.
What can I say? But if they thought it was gonna be hot, well, it is gonna be hot now. Bro got a whole jack.
where again, local law enforcement was far too late. And then when Fox News finally got there,
he is being booked on felony. Whoa.
He kicked him out the store, dude.
Okay.
So they can't keep the streets, the stores, the news, or even your home safe from these hordes of lawless nonsense, and you'd hope they'd see this and think, okay, maybe we've made a mistake in our decisions to be so soft on crime. Maybe we don't want California to turn into the culture of third world living at first world prices. Nah, as Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom can't stop spending on nonsense that nobody even knows where our billions of dollars go. So he's decided to exacerbate our issues by further defunding the police, public safety programs, and clearing out the prisons to fix the deficit that he caused. As places like UCLA spent $500,000 worth of police resources fighting off 4 days of college protests, only to release the protesters without charges so they can immediately retake the campus. As remember in Norco, California, where the would-be robber got his arm shot off. And the initial reporting from NBC4 showed that all 4 of these broke bandits traveled across counties to commit their crime, only to come in second in Norco's quick draw competition. Now, the idiot that got hit was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Craig Cope, the 83-year-old liquor store owner, actually received over $5,000 after merchandise sales of the "Don't mess with Norco, we'll shoot your arm off" went viral. But sadly, Cope suffered a stroke shortly after the incident, and tragically passed away several months later. So many still believe that this was the feel-good story of the summer, but it's actually another one of the many tragedies coming out of California. Because I am 1,000,000% certain that the liquor store stick-up crew that traveled over an hour from deep blue LA to some random liquor store in horse country California, not only have they done this before, but they've gotten away with this before, either through their city's soft-on-crime policing or soft-on-crime prosecution. And although they didn't shoot the store owner, the robbery still caused a stroke, which likely caused the complications that resulted in his death. And as far as I can see online, no murder charges have been filed. Which goes to show how actual justice seems to constantly slip through this San Andreas-sized crack in California's crack-loving justice system. As I see scenarios like this spooky gingerbread man, who hasn't done anything directly criminal other than ominously creeping through the community. Now, he's likely just some weird prankster having some holiday laughs, but in the off chance that this gingerbread man is about to snap and commit some Merry Christmas murders, I think I would want to be protected with more than a cookie cutter. And yes, this is an outlandish example, but the point being, normal people don't stalk their streets in a cookie costume, and I just don't think it's smart to let psychopaths and criminals decide whether or not I'm safe in my own home. California's Governor Gavin Newsom just posted the most insane ad ever.
We're almost there. You're gonna make it.
Trump Republicans want to criminalize young Alabama women who travel for reproductive care.
Miss, I'm gonna need you to step out of the vehicle, take a pregnancy test.
Stop them by taking action at righttotravel.org.
Now, idiots online argue that this ad isn't actually from Newsom, despite the fact that Campaign for Democracy is his pack. And Newsom actually tweeted this insane ad against Alabama on his own Twitter, to which the replies called it unhinged even for him. How insane his levels of propaganda have gotten, pointing out how outlandish it would be for police to straight up make traffic stops with pregnancy tests. Now, I'm shocked but not surprised, as this really seems to be the go-to move for the hyper-left, never actually addressing the issues their voters are actually dealing with, but fabricating some spooky scenario that would be scary if it had any semblance of reality. Because I know it's unhinged, you know it's unhinged, but somehow this actually scared his base. Because when you look at far-left social media sites like Reddit, even in the Joe Rogan subreddit, they're responding, "This isn't unhinged, I live in Alabama, this wouldn't happen, but maybe something similar." And going back to their classic, Trump and the Republicans are going to do it. Now, I don't normally listen to comments, especially Reddit replies, but it is good to sometimes peer into the would-be minds of far-left social media sites just to see how their logic copes with a constant stream of idiocy. Because when you see someone on r/Los Angeles asking about the safety on the LA Metro for a woman traveling solo, the replies were filled with, "It's gonna be fine, just keep your guard up, carry pepper spray and a knife, ignore the replies bringing up the stabbing today, again, just bring pepper spray and a knife." And real quick, just so you know, in a lot of instances, this advice in California could be a felony, but then again, I wouldn't suggest taking any sort of safety advice from Reddit, as right after they talked about how safe the metro was, this same subreddit posted about the woman that got stabbed on the metro and ultimately lost her life. And 3 days later, today, another man got knifed on the metro. When the local news station tried to cover the uptick in crime on the metro, they also got attacked.
While we were reporting on all of the violence, we watched as a man we thought was a passenger began harassing other people that were waiting for the bus, when suddenly he began turning himself anger on himself and then on us. Watch as he knocks down our camera and then comes back, picks up our tripod and slams it against our news van. All of this unprovoked. We never spoke to him.
As the American mind can't comprehend the concept of Tokyo's Apple Store.
All the iPhones displayed aren't attached to any security device. You can literally pick them up and examine them without any restrictions. And this doesn't just apply to iPhones, but the other things in the store like headphones. Like, I could totally just pretend these are mine and walk out, which is crazy. Even their most expensive devices like iPads and MacBook Pros are only connected to one thing, which is the charging cable.
And now it appears we may be exporting that culture of criminality to Japan.
Videotaping this crime spree is the best idea we ever had!
Unknown drones have been seen all across the skies of New Jersey, originally dismissed as just social media speculation, but were definitely unlike anything we've ever seen before, which wasn't too concerning until they saw an invasion of drones from the ocean.
One of their officers called 911 after seeing 50 of them come off the ocean.
Advised after we made contact with that officer that there were 50 that came off the ocean.
50?
50. That was my reaction also. There were 50 that were coming off the ocean.
And this is a sworn officer?
Sworn officer, yes. We contacted state police, we contacted the FBI, we contacted the Coast Guard.
And even showing up at military bases.
Car-sized drones operating for hours in restricted airspace and able to elude local law enforcement when they send their own drones up to give chase.
So hopefully you can protect yourself with your tinfoil beanie available at decoyvoice.com and link below, as people all across Jersey are genuinely freaking out at all these large, unexplainable aircraft that they can't identify other than they're not the enemy, as these drones are likely originating from none other than the North Pole. So don't try to take down St. Nick's delivery drones, or you'll end up like this guy.
At some point today, did a drone fly over your house and you shoot at it? I'm gonna be real blunt with you and ask.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, why'd you shoot at it?
Because I thought it was somebody and turned around playing games on my house.
What'd you shoot at it with?
9mm.
Okay. Alright,
How much trouble am I in?
Quite a bit. You've been honest with me, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm really just, for you being honest, you really just took me off guard. I'm not gonna
What am I gonna do? I'm gonna lie?
True.
Just let me know if it's too tight, all right?
I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe.
As Philadelphia continues to see an uptick in lawlessness, as this mass looting scene isn't from 2020, but just a few months ago, the city has finally had enough.
The mayor, the commissioner, and the governor said we're going to do something about the thefts. They passed new legislation that they're going after people who just want to randomly steal and think they're going to get a walker, a sweet cake walker. All I have to say to the youth is put down the guns. Because if you come here with a gun, the chances are you're not going to make it home. I hate to say it like that, but we have to keep it real. This is Philadelphia.
Now, I don't know how many looters this guy is trying to be prepared for, but this isn't a magazine as much as it's an entire encyclopedia. But I kinda dig the whole 50-cent Hummer, smoking a cigar, 4 stars on his collar like he's the chief of police. Because let's be clear, a lot of people are saying that he's a Philly copper, but no, he's just a citizen walking around with a banana clip bigger than Donkey Kong on IMAX. Because as Philly coppers were bowing down to the BLM mob and having their department defunded by $33 million, gas stations began staffing their own militias.
Tension from the public because they have never seen anybody with an AR shotgun walking around, and you know, why are you here? Are we in Beirut?
It's nice and safe for me. I can get my juice, go back to my car without worrying about somebody jumping in it.
Basically what we do is we do security details to protect the public when the public calls upon us, when the police can't be there.
Which sadly seem to be better equipped than what the taxpayers can offer their police. As if my home was being raided by 50 masked men, would I want the bicycle brigade bending down to these bandits? Or would I want to be defended by security that's so heavily armed they actually look like Call of Duty cosplayers that bought all the DLCs? In London, this guy apparently tried to steal a phone, but then got his own phone stolen instead.
I mean, come on, man. You try to rob someone and you got robbed, bro. Unlock the phone for me, my guy. You don't know it. You don't know it. Then you're not getting the phone. No, don't help him. You try to rob someone. What are you crying for? Right, give me a freestyle. Give me a freestyle. I'll give you phone. Give me a freestyle. Freestyle, I'll give you phone. You can't. It's not singing. Rap, man. Do 10 push-ups right now. Do push-ups. Do push-ups to your phone. Keep the phone, yeah? Can I have the phone, yeah? I'm gonna have the phone regardless. Bro, I'm gonna drop the phone in here, rude boy. Alright, then get down and give me 10 now. 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 In front of everyone now. Hurry up. Spot me. Spot me, bro. You ain't getting the phone.
So there's so much to unpack here, from why he has the upper body strength of a baby bird, or the concept of having to rap for your phone back, or most importantly, the fact that this guy in his all-black Nike sweatsuit is basically being shaken down and shamed for his phone, and nobody around seems to care. Thieves snatching phones on motorbikes is becoming common all throughout the city, so much that even their official London police account warns citizens and tourists that thieves ride by on bicycles to steal your stuff. And the Twitter replies cry about the non-policing in London, how their local authorities do nothing to help the citizens, and just like in the US, they try to pass off the issue to your insurance. So no wonder in London they're even locking up their vehicles like a junkyard dog. And on the surface level, if you were walking by and saw 3 dudes making a kid sing and do push-ups on the street for his stuff back, normally people would step in and say, give him his belongings back, and why are you teasing him? But their society is degraded so badly that the assumption isn't bullying, because if you're wearing an all-black sweatsuit with a hoodie and a skull cap, they'll just assume you deserve it. As New York City plunges deeper into lawlessness, where citizens constantly worry about being attacked, robbed, or even worse, it might be comforting to know they just rolled out the NYPD dance team. As protesters demanding a ceasefire continue all across the country, this group in New York City originally began their march safely on the sidewalks, but eventually blocked a busy street holding fake babies, shaking baby rattlers. And as the rattlesnake sounds did absolutely nothing, the NYPD brought out this weird AI-sounding warning.
If you do so voluntarily, no charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to use the available sidewalk, you will be subject to arrest.
But this Mother of the Year candidate brought her actual baby into the middle of the streets while she cosplayed someone actually accomplishing something.
Take a step back.
Now, the original poster stated that the man with the skateboard taking the baby is actually the father, so I'll never understand what goes through the head of someone that thinks bringing their baby to a dangerous protest in the middle of the street somehow makes their point more important. Now, I do understand that Biden in particular might pause if he saw a baby in the protest, but he's nowhere near this street in New York City, as Hartford defunded their police back in 2020, and Pittsburgh was even cutting their police staffing into this year, which Democrats have been known to eliminate police protection for everybody but themselves.
You can't get that off. I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets because we're trying to save lives.
So if you're an important politician, of course they have cops protecting them all hours of the day. But if you're a business owner in Detroit, you have to rely on what looks like some street militia. Or if you're lucky, Vampire Hunter Security.
Show me you right now. What is that? Ooh, samurai. That boy, that is a monster. Let me see what that looks like.
Now, would I feel somewhat safer knowing that there was a bootleg blade sweeping the streets? Kind of, but I would much rather have a trained organization of sworn officers held in check by elected officials that could only pass judgments if agreed upon by a jury of one's peers, which is what we had in the first place. Sure, it had its flaws, but instead of fixing them, these deep blue leaders decided to just strip it down until the only people that got police protection was themselves. But for you and me, our safety is either up to ourselves, or apparently the occasional street samurai. Worst case scenario, you can get put on hold like this guy in Oakland trying to report a body.
Unbelievable.
Now obviously that's not an emergency, but I remember living in LA and literally getting hit on the freeway by an old Asian man who was barely even awake and not even aware that he hit my car. And the dispatcher straight up told me, "Don't follow the guy, we're not sending any CHP, but if you'd like, you can come into the station later to report this." And I use that example as it's the most recent, but I have plenty of examples of calling emergency services in the city only for fire or police to simply state, "Nah, we're not coming out for that." And what a sad city Los Angeles has become, where calling 911 feels more like a free-to-play mobile game, but instead of pay to win, it's pay to live. Because it used to be police, citizens, then criminals, but now it seems to be rich political criminals, poor criminals, police, and somewhere underneath the subterranean crust, the average everyday tax-paying citizen.
How you guys doing? Can we talk to anybody here? Nope, they said don't record them. Here, just keep it on me right now so people don't get upset.
Yo, what's up, dog?
How you doing?
Tarantino or what,
whoa,
dog?
whoa,
Huh?
whoa.
Get the f out the block, mother.
I'm getting out. Holy frick. Wow. All right, well. Wow, that, film me. Hey, he's got a stick, He's got a stick. Holy cow, we just got attacked.
Bro, this is crazy, man. How do you run a business? That's why a coalition of business owners, mom and pop business owners, are in the process of class action litigation against the city of Seattle. They're trying to run a business, and then you have this madness.
How are you doing, sir? Look, we got it.
Out of all the things that have happened in Seattle, this is the most Seattle thing to ever happen. You randomly getting attacked on the street, but just on the other side, some cyborg on a $1,000 unicycle shows up. As Seattle is like living a scene out of Elysium, where one side lives in abject poverty, while the other side George Jetsons right past the danger. Why did Disney's new Snow White go from this?
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
To this.
The cartoon's so beloved. It's like a monumental moment in film history.
Yeah.
It was like the first feature-length cartoon movie. All of these amazing things that happened for that film are the reason that you and I really get to sit here today, because it made Disney what it is.
Well, maybe it's because Disney ended last year with their biggest flop in Strange World. Then their films continued to flail with their live-action Little Mermaid, their original animated movie they wish they never made, and had an actual record-breaking box office bomb in their Marvel franchise. As Forbes reported that they spent nearly $1 billion this year on financial failures, Disney is getting concerned on the live-action remake of Snow White. Now, casting Gal Gadot as the evil queen, with Rachel Zegler as Snow White, seems somewhat promising. That is until you realize she actually despises the source material.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Which reminds me of when Netflix tried to do a live-action remake of the beloved Cowboy Bebop anime. But then their female lead opened her mouth.
And I just wanted to address a couple of things that sort of keep coming up in the comments amongst fans. First, I wanted to apologize to the fans that I did not anatomically match the Faye Valentine character. You know, there was talk about, like, can we put Daniela in a time machine and maybe give her different parents so she has different genetic information to sort of make her look better? it proved to be too complicated.
As nearly everybody saw Netflix's Cowboy Bebop as a massive failure. Hollywood is like a Christian rock band that hires a lead singer that not only hates the Bible, but the people that read and enjoyed it, as for whatever reason they had to generate diversity into German dwarves. And they obviously got backlash for these nonsensical attempts at inclusion, as audiences are simply tired of it, when even Netflix begins to receive criticism for frequently race-swapping their characters for seemingly no reason. The one thing I need to point out is people always seem to complain that these color swaps only seem to go one way, but that's simply not the case. Just look at the Pennsylvania State Police somehow labeling these fine gentlemen as white. The Texas Department of Public Safety seems to do the same with these other white men, and even Virginia sees these very Chinese and Vietnamese names as white. So Asian male erasure in Hollywood is nothing new, but it honestly never bothered me. Tom Cruise as the Last Samurai, Jared Leto as the new Yakuza boss, the Dragon Ball movie with... Okay, I actually do take offense to that, but for very different reasons. But I just find no importance in making sure I personally feel represented in the media I consume. Most people see the hero of the story and automatically identify with that character, not whatever actor in the cast that most looks like a Port Korean with curly hair and a Christopher Walken-style speech pattern, which makes Snow White even more nonsensical. Just imagine for a moment that you're one of those Mickey Mouse fanatics that happens to be a minority, and you hear Disney is doubling down on diversity in their new Snow White. So you get super excited to be included in the reimagination, only to find that Disney doesn't see you as the princess. No, your identity gets represented as a dwarf that works in a local mine. So maybe that's why the new Snow White is being booted by a year and recasting all the randomized diversity with something much more like the original material. And honestly, I really like this. I'm not to the point that I want to see entire companies fail, as they employ nearly 250,000 people, many of which likely silently despise the direction their boss is heading down, which is pretty much how every industry is. Because at the end of the day, I still enjoy big budget blockbusters, and there's only a few companies that can actually fund them. So I like it when Paramount tries to make a movie about Sonic the Hedgehog. They preview this monstrosity that mocks the original material, but listens to the fan base and actually makes an amazing movie that becomes a box office hit, getting several sequels, potentially saving Paramount's movies. And now that you have a successful Sonic franchise, and a mega hit with the Mario movie, and there's already a phenomenal Pokemon movie, and a rumor that the Star Fox film is finally getting some footing, the single greatest crossover blockbuster since the Avengers is right there begging to be made. They couldn't print more money if they did another pandemic, and all of this is possible just because a movie studio listened to their loyal fan base. Because I'll be honest, I enjoy nerdy things, and seeing Captain America and Endgame summon Thor's hammer at the movie theater is like a core memory for me, and witnessing Iron Man's story conclude after over a decade was nothing short of cinematic magic. But somehow Disney saw this and thought, yeah, if you like that, you'll probably love what looks like Michael Jackson in greenface twerking with possibly the most irrelevant person to the superhero niche. I know this is awful, you know this is awful, and now Disney's accountant knows this is awful, which is why the meme of "you have died of diversity" is now catching steam. Now I'll be the first to say I think diversity can be a good thing, and if you, the viewer, aren't also a rooftop Korean with a Lego man haircut and an aversion to enunciating your R's, if you're still watching this channel, you also somewhat appreciate diversity, but our issue with corporate diversity is the forced equity included, and the amount of people trying to silence me now is astounding. Because as this channel nears 500,000 subscribers, I see more comments attacking my eyes, claiming I'm a Chinese grifter, and inferring that there's a racial reasoning behind my channel. But let's look at my most recent videos from today. If we drill down the main subjects of the stories by color, it's pretty diverse. And even arranging it by the most popular videos that we've had on this channel, yeah, we had some updates on one particular nuisance streamer, but again, pretty equally diverse. So for these idiots to scream into the comment section suggesting that even though the stories that I recently covered are what people have most watched, even if those videos criticize characters diverse as the cast of Disney's new live-action Little Mermaid, they think the fact that they only click the videos with thumbnails of a people of a specific race is some sort of gotcha moment against me is actually kind of hilarious, as they're really only snitching on themselves, but they're too stupid to notice. And I know there's people critical of seeing mean comments against a certain people, but there's also mean comments against me. So just because bad people say bad things doesn't mean I need to change the way I live my life. Also, I might not offend the emotionally fragile idiots. Because what most people don't realize is, whenever they're trying to bully you down a certain path where you can't say particular things because that's harmful and not appropriate, it's not actually about protecting certain persons, it's about suppressing critical thinking. Because it's a lot harder to convince someone that their failing policies aren't failing than it is to say, we're not failing, you're just racist for noticing. As in the 90s, this was the best computers could do, but fast forward 30 years and it started to look believable. And mere months later, AI digital women are basically indistinguishable from the real thing. And ChatGPT's creator just announced Sora, which is beginning to create entire digital worlds. So as online content creators may no longer be able to make millions off of desperate men gawking at their... I just love the idea that Hassan, after all the complaining about how hard his job of streaming is, being infuriated at how his viewership has collapsed, to find himself on a, quote, reputable program like Piers Morgan, only to be used beside whatever the heck this is, where that doesn't look so much like a news talk show as much as it looks like the lineup of villains trying to capture the Batman.
Welcome back to the comment section. I am producer Reagan, filling in again for Miss Brett Cooper, but don't worry, she will be back on Monday. And don't worry, Brett will be back on Monday. And don't worry, Brett will be back on Monday.
Today, December 10th, will be my last day hosting the comment section and working for the Daily Wire.
They are promoting her best friend, who was her maid of honor at her wedding. They apparently, allegedly, gave her acting classes to help her imitate Brett's mannerisms. No. And when I was talking to a girl with the family I was staying with before, she's like an 18-year-old chick that loves Brett Cooper. She's a total super fan. And she was like, yeah, the Reagan episodes are kind of weird.
Welcome back to the comment section. So obviously, I talk car brand into a whole new stratosphere of woke confusion. I'm concerned about feminism. I'm concerned about the growing gender divide. But before we get into today's episode, make sure you like this video. Before we dive into this episode, though, make sure that you like this video if you have not already. If you've not already.
As I understand, two best friends are going to have similar mannerisms, but you can't convince me this isn't done entirely on purpose, as this just looks like when two people pick the same character in Street Fighter, where they have all the same moves with a different color scheme. At a school in Oklahoma, they held an assembly featuring students licking the feet of what was originally reported as adults. Now obviously I don't want that video on my channel, and for anybody angry in the comments that I didn't play it, there he is, officer. Right there. Hannah Barrett, a TikToker with over 2 million followers, recently went viral for this.
Y'all ever wondered what a 500-foot roll of 1 1/4 inch pecs looks like? And you want to know how fun it is to unroll this mess, especially when it's, 100 freaking degrees out here in South Alabama, but at least the heat will help it straighten out.
But for some reason, Twitter users went nuts over her, saying her accent should be illegal, she's literally a man, and comparing her to other strong women. Now I normally just witness this drama on X and don't really dive into it on this channel, but then they made it oddly political as if she was the mascot for conservatives, to which who I believe is Hannah's friend replied that in a zombie apocalypse, Hannah would be useful, meanwhile she would cry because she can't get more plastic surgery. Now I don't know this girl, but... Now, I'm not going to go on a tirade trashing the Kirkland brand Kardashian that tried to claim Hannah is somehow too masculine to admire, but I just find a problem with the left villainizing anything remotely, quote, conservative, as if everything we eat isn't mainly from the efforts of conservative workers. And in the event we see civil unrest, World War III, EMPs, or even just massive economic collapse, I really hope we have a couple Hannahs in my tribe, because I know we won't survive on Botox. Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon were internet celebrities, as hundreds of thousands of social media users followed their animal sanctuary in New York, until for some reason, the state came after them.
They sent 6 to 8 officers to my house from Albany to confiscate a squirrel and a raccoon, and it was signed off on a search warrant.
And the more you know, the worse it gets.
Peanut was the cornerstone of our nonprofit animal rescue, and 10 to 12 DEC officers raided my house as if I was a drug dealer. I was sat outside my house for 5 hours. I had to get a police escort to my bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to feed my rescue horses breakfast or lunch. I was sat there like a criminal. After they interrogated my wife to check out her immigration status, then proceeded to ask me if I had cameras in my house, then proceeded to go through every cabinet, nook, and cranny of my house for a squirrel and a raccoon. And then they took them and killed them.
And although the police do have a history of being nervous around anybody carrying an acorn, in the case of Peanut, unless you were made out of Eggo waffles, I think you would be fine. Now, there were responses showing President Donald Trump spoke out, saying if the illegal squirrel was from Mexico, New York would have given him a free hotel and a $500 gift card. But that was a fake story. Then there was an article that looked like The Atlantic, stating how the squirrel became a rallying cry of the far right. That was also a fake story. Then social media users found the Instagram that linked to his Twitter is actually just a click funnel to his other content. And that's a story I refuse to verify, since seemingly everything that goes viral lately is actually an advertisement for that stuff, as I'm beginning to think the internet was a mistake. Advil has gone from targeting back pain to black pain.
Believe me when I say,
I'm in pain. Believe me when I say,
and believe me when I say,
my pain is real.
As they're introducing the Pain Equity Project, which promises to fund solutions for medical education, illuminate pain equity through powerful research, and create content for the community, which oddly does nothing to address Advil's parent company that experimented on African kids, causing loss of life and a $75 million payout that they fought for 15 years. But don't worry guys, by throwing more money at institutions to put out more useless information and making TikToks to pander to people about black pain in your area, we've somehow both created and solved the racism in pain. Because let's be clear, there are issues in America's medical field, but no amount of pharmaceutical pandering is going to reverse the fact that some random ad does nothing but provide relief for corporations suffering from chronic white guilt. As people are pointing out the Believe in Pain displays, saying 3 in 4 black people believe there's bias. So Advil will elevate stories and provide education. But who exactly is this display for? Because I've actually lived in the hood, and none of them look like this. As right now, those displays all look more like this. And again, it's just them trying to change the narrative behind their brand as if we're idiots. As if now, after all these Advil ad efforts, if someone says, Decoy, you're a racist, I could say, nah, would a racist have these? It's absolutely ridiculous, but the worst part is, they think it's working. As when the Dank Knight on Twitter posted this picture, stating, I take 2 Advil in the morning for my back pain, and a couple more around lunchtime for my racism. The actual Advil account replied, asking to know more, and please contact us. In Seattle, Washington, Jonathan Cho from Cho Show encountered a public defender with a very specific look.
Really nice. She's really smart. She sounds like she's got the right idea about things. I really support what she's up to, and I think it's fabulous. How about that?
I've always been the type of person to say, let consenting adults do whatever makes them happy, as long as they're not hurting anyone else. But I could only imagine getting unjustly arrested and not being able to afford an attorney, and if this was the one the state provided for me, I would have my reservations, as I wouldn't feel like I was so much fighting for my freedom as much as I was in a bizarre alternate universe if this was the scene deciding whether or not I would spend the next decade locked in a concrete box. That being said, I do understand that this is Seattle, so for all the viewers on social media being shocked at what we're seeing, this could quite possibly be a good thing for you in deep blue cities like Seattle. Because if your attorney happens to massively mess up in court, who is the progressive judge more likely to publicly chew out? The rich cisgendered white male with his cushy government job, or the trans woman with noticeable physical abnormalities that makes everyday life a serious hardship? Star Wars: The Acolyte can no longer be classified as entertainment, but just progressive propaganda.
This puzzle is he or they with us?
As their lead actress breaks it down in a rap song how much she despises Star Wars fans. So here's what their intro should have been. it's insane everything in The Acolyte, from the conception to the execution to the repeated insults of their fan base, makes me think that destroying the franchise has to be on purpose. The same way I'm a Boston Celtics fan, so if I got the GM job for the Los Angeles Lakers, I'd be handing out max contracts to WNBA players, changing their jersey colors to a hard-to-look-at red and neon green monstrosity, and advertising how the Lakers are the most LGBT team in the league. Now replace the franchise Lakers with Star Wars, and that's exactly what they did with The Acolyte, as Bud Light was the first to light their legacy on fire, with Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazine following suit, and now Sony had decided to add pronouns to their online game. And I'm telling you right now, from personal experience, anonymous online gamers are the absolute last people that demand political correctness, as I played a lot of Xbox Live in the Modern Warfare 2 era, and I can't tell you exactly why, but if you can't see my face and only hear my voice, a lot of people assume that I'm black. I don't know why, but I'd constantly be called the hard R, and not in the weird gamer way they call everybody that. No. I would hear it in detail how much they didn't like my perceived race, that they definitely weren't guessing Asian of all things. But it just goes to show how these corporations run by college grads from liberal arts universities fundamentally don't understand their target audiences. As I recently saw this subreddit called YouTube Drama that basically pins whoever they're currently canceling, where someone asked about Shoe on Head, finding out that she's actually not the pure liberal they thought she was, but then asked, who else should I stop watching? Please don't let me make the mistake of enjoying something that I'm not allowed to. And that's the difference between normal people and the modern day progressive left. I personally don't care if you love Star Wars. I even enjoyed the third movie of the sequel trilogy. It was just mindless fun that looked cool. And I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this didn't, and even despise Disney overall, but don't need me to pass a purity test of always agreeing and validating your opinions so you can enjoy the rest of my channel. You might think I'm simple-minded for liking Star Wars, the Fast and Furious, or basketball, but inversely, I'm never gonna lose my mind if you don't enjoy what I do. Oh, you don't like the Fast and Furious X2? What? You don't like family? Are you a bigot? My life is so tied to the thing that validates my life choices that an attack on it is now an attack on me.
I'm the only non-white person in the room. But why are we so surprised when the most senior positions in Scotland are filled almost exclusively by those who are white? Take my portfolio alone. The Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. White, 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 white. That is not good enough.
Imagine being a second-generation immigrant in Scotland and being outraged at the idea that everybody is white. That's like me going into parts of Middle America and saying, thanks for welcoming me into your country and letting me become an American citizen. Now I demand everybody look Chinese or else you guys are bigots. And even when the media accidentally shows them carrying weapons.
Then there was this, as I say, clash between protesters and the police, and that is when they then ran off across the park here. A big group ran off looking for trouble, it looked like to us. So we're just going to step away now from this group behind us.
And how insane is it that the media can literally be on live television warning the citizens about the angry far-right protesters looking for trouble, and then they accidentally catch the counter-protesters walking in black bloc carrying machetes, and their response isn't, oh wait, it looks like you, the viewer, should also be aware of this other threat. They just say, cut the camera away, this is contrary to the narrative that we're trying to portray. As it used to be terrible to be labeled a racist, but then they decided that being in shape is racist, not liking bad smells is racist, and even getting a good night's sleep is now somehow racist. So if somebody calls me a bigot, it almost means nothing now. The same way they conveniently changed the definition of vaccine back in 2021 to what it says now to better align with the current narrative that they were pushing. So when they get caught parroting a lie, don't admit that you were lying, just keep changing the English language until your statement is true. At the G7 conference in Italy, President Joe Biden was seen seemingly wandering off. Which had his press secretary scrambling to save face.
There is so much misinformation, disinformation, as we've been talking about. You talked about
the video of the president wandering, and it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering. He was talking to a parachuter that was right in front of him.
But even looking at the second angle, I can see no so-called other parachutists standing in front of him. So when the New York Post slammed the POTUS, the top search results all stated it was deceptive, misleading, and edited. Which is hilarious because when NBC covered how they quickly debunked their story with their fact checks, even the image that they hand-selected still has President Damon Shaw staring off into the deep crevices of dementia, as everybody else is still looking into the sky. As just 3 days ago, we covered how the Associated Press tried to bounce this from a migrant crime to the dangers of women jogging alone. But now, the New York Post came out with the most insane spin ever, saying he likely panicked when murdering her. Where they go on to write that he was met with resistance he wasn't expecting, as he's a disorganized offender that just did it spur of the moment, and since he's only 5'7", he was overwhelmed by her size and strengths. So not surprisingly, the author of that garbage has now deleted their social media, as I really don't know how or why, but it really looks like they wrote an article to try to gain compassion for a murderer. Because these statements look like they're from a criminal profiler, and they do have criminals of opportunity labels with insight as to why certain crimes go down specific ways. But there is absolutely zero reasoning for writing an article explaining how a college girl is able to surprise an adult male with her overwhelming size and strength. This article literally sounds like it was written by the guy's public defender, which he may not be the attorney assigned to the case, but he's definitely acting as his defender from the public. As RFK openly calls out their corruption.
The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money.
Which is insane, as CNN's coverage cuts away right as he gets into it.
Vice President Harris has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days.
We've been listening to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Phoenix outlining what...
And if you look at the timestamp, MSNBC had already cut off RFK before he can even get into why he left the Democrats. And I don't even know why MSNBC continues to simp for Harris, as she simply refuses to speak with them.
When will she sit down with the media in a one-on-one capacity and answer our questions?
I think she'll sit down on her time. Look.
And expect whatever games the corporate dinosaur media played with Trump, they're about to do the same with RFK. Because if he was truly a liability that would have ruined Kamala's campaign, they would have openly broadcast whatever he was saying, as it would likely damage Trump's run too. But if they don't even allow you to hear what he has to say, that's when you know they're afraid, as making Americans healthier should be a bipartisan issue, but just like how they demonize everything Trump does, they'll have to do the same to RFK. Because this is just their go-to move. Oversimplify the problem, villainize the solution.
But Republican voters don't vote that way. They don't vote based on economics or based on the benefits they're getting economically from the president. They're increasingly, from the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. The idea that they can't get whatever job they want, a black person got it, therefore drive all the blacks out of the colleges, get rid of DEI. That is what they're voting on. They're just voting specifically on racial animus.
Yes, the benefits of New Yorkers footing the billion-dollar bill to give migrants $10,000 each. The opportunities California provides for migrants to buy homes with no monthly payments and interest-free loans. And of course, the horrendous crimes occurring stateside by criminals that shouldn't have been here in the first place, being represented by lawyers paid for with our own taxes. But no worries, our seemingly state-sponsored media assured us our only issues are just some scary Americans voting based on race. CNN recently ran a segment of them allegedly rescuing a prisoner left in solitary confinement for over 90 days.
The guard makes us turn the camera off while he shoots the lock off the cell door. It's still not clear if there is something under the blanket.
Oh, it moved. Is there someone there? Is someone there? Where's my phone?
Yep.
Oh.
tells the fighter he's from the city of Humps and has been in the cell for 3 months.
Okay, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
He clutches my arm tightly with both hands.
Does anyone have any water?
After 3 months in a windowless cell, he can finally see the sky.
Now, this would be seen as a triumphant moment in journalism if it wasn't for the fact that they just freed a notorious torturer.
There's a good chance I may have committed some light treason.
As the New York Post reports, the seemingly innocent prisoner has a long history of alleged war crimes. Part of the forces that were known to torture those who refused to pay him off, also ending civilians in their civil war in 2014. As they also make note of how he didn't quite look like someone held in solitary confinement for 3 months, which is just the seasoning on top of the treason they felt the need to self-snitch on. As even before the whole "you're rescuing a torturer" reporting came out, absolutely nobody was buying the story of "we turned the camera off and shot the lock off a cell door, then zoomed in on a random blanket only to suddenly discover a civilian was cowering underneath with perfectly clean clothes and somewhat recently groomed," stating he was in a windowless room for 3 months, but goes outside and immediately looks into the sun. This all sounds ridiculous until you realize it's CNN, which is pretty on brand for them. As I covered the last time, that specific CNN reporter got caught up in nonsense, where she was reporting from a war zone, ducked down on the ground from a massive barrage of rockets.
Hi, John. So forgive me, I have a slightly unelegant position, but we have just had a massive barrage of rockets coming in here, not too far from us, so we have had to take shelter here.
Only to seconds later show people casually walking around in the background, to which she was being confronted over her reporting.
But where's your humanity? Where? Where is your humanity? You liar! You liar!
And wasn't the only CNN journalist to be ran off the street.
You are not welcome here! Supporters! CNN! CNN!
CNN treats world events like the tabloids cover celebrity gossip. What they report doesn't necessarily have to be rooted in truth, as long as they make it look somewhat believable to the lowest information viewer. So over a football field away, the fate of our country was decided by 1 inch. Now the media immediately tried to downplay this as shards of a teleprompter that hit Trump's head, but we can't expect much from these scumbags as they tout commentary like this after he gets shot and his supporter actually loses their life.
Donald Trump and the people around him perceive themselves to be under threat, and that's all that matters. That is not legitimate. That is wrong. You hear the screams from the audience. People are terrified.
And CNN initially downplayed it on their front page, with a headline reading that Trump just fell at the rally. Washington Post said the shots were just loud noises. So NBC News, USA Today, and the Los Angeles Times all marched in lockstep to call an assassination attempt loud noises. But this is pretty much on brand with fiery but mostly peaceful, which just goes to show that CNN isn't so much reporting the news as they're reporting a corporate pre-approved narrative. This wasn't even the first time it was this obvious, as back in 2021, they showed Joe Rogan getting COVID looking sickly and green, when the video Rogan originally posted had him looking much healthier and normal. And again, this was something I covered on this channel as it was happening. And I was just starting my YouTube channel at the time, which was not only a red pill moment for my listeners, but for myself too. As at the time, I remember seeing this clip from a very popular YouTuber I would watch, mocking people who do their own research.
I did my own research. I'm gonna stop you right there. What do you mean by you did your own research? Did you look at credible sites like New York Times and NPR, or are we talking opinion editorial pieces from Medium? Okay, dude, you don't have to be like...
And I think where I would have been had I not been doing this channel and conducting my own spooky research. As a normie, I likely would have accepted the train of thought of only listening to trusted sources like the New York Times or NPR, only for them to end up the same as CNN and be wrong about social distancing. Turns out the experts just made it up. Wrong about the shots, as there was no data saying it would stop the spread, and basically wrong about everything that was making their corporate sponsors billions of dollars during the lockdowns. So I don't think any lesser of anybody that originally bought into what the mainstream narrative was, as I see believing CNN or NPR like people that still use Internet Explorer or Internet Edge or whatever they're calling it now, as the only people that are still using it are the people who got it by default but never took the time to see if there was something better out there. And just because I'm terminally online doesn't mean I fault those who have a life outside of the internet, as that does sound nice. Because when you actually look into how CNN portrayed this propaganda they called an interview, the preview on the interview says live when it's not going to air until 9 p.m. But as the interview actually aired, they still labeled it live, which is a lie. And it was later reported that the interview was actually 41 minutes long, but had to be cut down to 18 minutes, losing over half the footage. If these were the highlights of the interview, how bad were the parts they had to cut out, compared to Trump's collective 5 hours of long-form interviews that received billions of views? Meanwhile, CNN still struggles to even get Decoy voice levels of viewership.
So you guys censored that as well?
If something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise.
Mark Zuckerberg tried to rebrand himself as some sort of freedom-loving patriot, even praising President Donald Trump.
Seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life.
But then his Facebook immediately went back to their old games by censoring the image of Trump surviving the attempt on his life, stating that it was an altered photo/video, as according to Meta, independent fact-checkers said it was altered in a way that could mislead people, so they will hide the users that post this image. And it's crazy because the whole world saw this happen live, but the only way I can even talk about it is with this YouTube-safe anime version of the event, because even with Meta's AI chatbot, people report they won't even acknowledge the attempt on Trump as it happened on July 13th and it's too new. But when asked about Kamala Harris's presidential campaign, they have all sorts of information regarding what happened on July 21st. And when questioned why it's so selective, they state the attempt on Trump is a fictional event. We are witnessing in real time how a story gets conveniently scrubbed from reality, as everybody saw this play out right when it happened, but as soon as the narrative started getting out of control, raising too many questions about the inconsistencies in their official story, it's suddenly being labeled as altered, misleading, and now fictional, not because it's false, but because the truth will lead to people escaping their carefully curated echo chamber.
Pumps his fist in the air.
That was a crazy...
Says fight, fight, fight. It's one of the most iconic photos of all time.
And then the media cried about Elon Musk and X shaping the narrative. I'm sorry, people seeing what went down for themselves isn't shaping the narrative, the truth is. The corporate media is just upset that they no longer control the flow of information, and the more the commoners start to question their version of reality, the more desperate they will become, and in turn, the more powerful President Trump will be. Ironically, making the media responsible for this new wave of MAGA support. Now, the masked counter-protesters dressed in all black are still marching through the streets, openly carrying weapons, oftentimes in front of law enforcement, with virtually zero outrage from their mainstream media. And even when their local coppers, that just look like crossing guards with half the ability, try to stop these groups, they quickly have to retreat. So when the citizens encounter these mobs, they're basically on their own. But apparently, if someone like me shares this footage with you, they'll throw me in jail.
The offence of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing that offence. And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification, arrests, and so forth.
And these aren't idle threats, they're legit imprisoning people in expedited trials.
You have been committed for sentence, having pleaded guilty to an offence of publishing written material which is threatening, abusive, or insulting. You took to social media in order to encourage others towards participation in the attacks. The sentence is one of 20 months imprisonment.
And if that's not bad enough, they're actually threatening to extradite and prosecute US citizens too.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Even the BBC is reporting on this, stating even people abroad aren't safe from them, as they apparently have prosecutors around the globe. But honestly, this didn't work out too well for them last time they tried it. So the UK authorities can't stop these mobs from taking over their streets. They'll just try to stop you from noticing those mobs taking over their streets. Of course, they can jail their defenseless citizens from noticing things, but I somehow doubt they'll be able to come after Americans expressing their First Amendment rights protected by their Second.
This is one of the reasons that people have these this sort of thinking. Here's the three cable networks reporting of this. Our banner said, soon Biden announces legal protections for undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens. CNN's banner said, Biden announces new protections for some undocumented spouses. Here was Fox's banner, migrant arrested for raping 13-year-old New York City. Yes. And so I think that's part of the problem.
And in case you missed it, here's MSNBC ignoring the issues to write fluff pieces for Biden. CNN basically proving that they're state-sponsored media by doing the same, and what she was actually laughing at is the horrific attack on an American girl, a kid that they conveniently hidden from their headlines. When J.D. Vance pitches that idea, it was too difficult. But if Harris says the same thing, it's for families. Now, I could understand the difference in coverage, as CNBC likely has hundreds of propagandists they call journalists, and maybe they have different opinions about something at different times. But no, these two articles were written by the same woman just 4 days apart. When Trump won the Iowa caucus, CNN did this.
Although here he is right now under my voice, you hear him repeating his anti-immigrant rhetoric.
And that wasn't the only instance.
We're not carrying his remarks live because, frankly, he says a lot of things that are not true and sometimes potentially dangerous.
And not just CNN, but MSNBC too.
The projected winner of the Iowa caucuses has just started giving his victory speech. Of course, there is a reason that we and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump. It is not out of spite. There is a cost to us as a news organization of knowingly broadcasting untrue things. Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. That is a fundamental truth of our business and who we are. And so his remarks tonight will not air here live. We will monitor them.
Which is nothing new to MSNBC, as back in 2020, they did the same.
Iowa, Indiana, Ohio.
Okay, here we are again in the unusual position of not only interrupting the President of the United States, but correcting the President of the United States.
And even supposedly conservative Fox News does it too.
And then, no.
Well, the former president finally got around to some campaign promises amid lots of cheering, as you heard. Many untruths. The 2020 election was not rigged. It was not stolen.
So when Trump says it, censor it. But this is perfectly fine.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did.
Because let's be clear, I think Fox News is garbage too, as they all align with their official talking points when it really comes down to it.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities. The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
So when everybody from CNN to Fox News says we cannot allow our viewers to hear what the president is saying, is it because we suddenly don't have the capacity to hear his lies in between all their lies? Or is it because they're so desperate to protect their carefully curated narrative that they will actually limit the speech of a president, domestic or foreign? Tucker Carlson finally had his interview with Putin, where he quickly received nearly 200 million views on Twitter alone. So predictably, the corporate dinosaur media immediately had a meltdown.
The Russian president turning to right-wing conspiracy theorist Tucker Carlson.
Sleeping with the enemy goes this headline. And this, is Tucker Carlson a Putin pawn?
But Tucker Carlson is going to be there and be the journalist that none of us are.
And I say, journalist in quotes.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson is not a journalist, not even close.
His name is Tucker Carlson, and he is the only American journalist who has been able to interview Putin since the invasion.
While Tucker is out there like an eager
puppy.
Now, the Babylon Bee believes it's infuriating mainstream journalists because they don't quite understand what actual journalism looks like. But I honestly think it's because a boring 2-hour interview of Putin is pulling in Mr. Beast levels of viewership. Meanwhile, cable can't even pull in 0.1% of what he receives. Where if you look at CNN's page in the same time frame, they struggle to even get Decoy voice numbers on their videos. And I've said it before, despite CNN being a billion-dollar corporation with over 4 decades of experience, on the internet, we're peers. And whatever insulting things they'd have to say about what I do on this channel, we are peers. But who knows how accurate Putin's voiceovers really were?
Why do you think the West rebuffed you then? What motivates this from your point of view?
Sorry, but I cannot disclose that information to you, an American journalist. But all I can say is, Decoy Voice is about to drop the hottest mixtape of 2024. So make sure you like and subscribe to this video.
So even though the Biden administration says everything he said is a lie, you can't prove he doesn't think my mixtape is fire. But more alarmingly, if you Google search Kamala Harris, you of course get results for Kamala and her campaign. But if you search for Donald Trump, the top news stories are all about Harris. Or worse, stories about a falsely framed clip purposely misleading you about Trump's campaign. As they all parrot the Wall Street Journal's post about Trump telling Christians you won't have to vote anymore if he's elected, which has this oddly cut off clip.
You gotta get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again.
So why did the Wall Street Journal literally cut Trump off mid-word? Maybe it's because if they played the full clip, they couldn't fear-monger off what he's really saying, as the full context tells an entirely different story.
And I will secure our elections. Our goal will be, as I said, one-day voting with paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and a thing called voter ID. To save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early. Vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
And as someone that does concise commentary, I can understand why you trim a long-winded Trump speech down to a few specific talking points. But they weren't doing it for the sake of saving time. They were doing it to completely change his message, to purposely manipulate you into thinking that Trump was going to end democracy and become a dictator. So of course Rolling Stone runs with the narrative, saying Republicans are shrugging at that out-of-context clip that hints that Trump wants to become a dictator. So then Reddit repeats their lies with a post that received over 44,000 upvotes, with the top replies parroting that Trump is a dictator, stating that he's somehow the Antichrist, and claiming that his supporters are in a literal cult. Mind you, these are the same people that saw this nonsense and thought, yes, this magically makes Trump's Operation Warp Speed suddenly something they immediately need injected into their body. And although this seems silly to us, it apparently worked on a lot of people. Not necessarily that specific TV skit, but the top-to-bottom bombardment on the television, social media, and pop culture overall, all parroting the same exact talking points, just until the more malleable masses will accept it as an undeniable fact, as the media is now trying to memory hole Kamala being the border czar, all parroting the lie that she never held the title, as obviously, being the border czar of a failed border destroys her campaign. But on Twitter, you can easily see her accepting the assignment. Videos of Biden giving her the responsibility.
I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle.
And links to the official government documents online dubbing Kamala as Biden's border czar. And again, without Twitter, low-information voters would be forced to simply accept the mainstream media repeating the same lie, that even though you very clearly recall the same members of the media saying, Kamala is now the border czar, they're now telling you no, you're misremembering. Trust us, we're the same people that told you don't wear masks, but then do wear masks, then get this medicine to not wear the mask, then you might still need to wear the mask, you just need more medicine. But when double the doses don't do enough, maybe more masking might help. Hey look, there's a war over there, we're suddenly not wearing masks anymore. And in case you forgot that's exactly how it went down, remember how afraid the media made the masses. Nothing actually solved the issue, they suddenly just moved on to the next thing. not the spooky boogeyman the media so desperately tries to portray him as, which is in stark contrast to how the same publication portrays Harris. And what's even more pathetic, as in that same issue of Time, Harris apparently declined to be interviewed by them, and yet they still went to their knees to publish a fluff piece for her. They're like the news publication version of a simp subscribing to an OnlyFans, except in this scenario, she actually does screw them, albeit in a different way.
And I'm going to work it out that there's no tax on Social Security for seniors. I'm also doing no tax on tips. No tax on tips.
But somehow now, Kamala's saying the same thing.
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
And what's worse, if Trump campaigns on stop taxing tips, CBS says it'll cost the feds too many billions. But when Kamala says it 2 months later, it's suddenly a new policy position that fights for service and hospitality workers. No matter how much you despise the corporate media, it's not enough, as CNN tried to paint their discussion on nuclear power negatively.
And Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So it's really not something that, you know, so it's not as scary as people think, basically.
So that was more Elon Musk than Donald Trump talking about, sort of suggesting that what happened almost 80 years ago, I think 80 years ago next year, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, now it's okay.
When in actuality, it was a reasonable point.
You know, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. If you look at the injuries and deaths, you know, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining operation, there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. You know,
maybe they'll have to change the name. The name is just—it's a rough name. There are some areas like when you see what happened in
good bad branding.
Right, we'll have to rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something.
It does have a branding problem.
When you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that?
It's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, you know, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it.
So Trump and Elon are talking about clean energy and how nuclear power is overregulated because normal people don't realize how long places stay irradiated. And CNN somehow tried to twist it into an insensitive comment about what happened to Japan in World War II. So no wonder everybody knows that CNN is a complete joke.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is.
Oh, I know. CNN makes it. I know.
Is that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
So even the New York Post messed this up earlier this year when a girl had horrendous crimes committed against her, but the Post showed a picture of a Starbucks and a school. So if the citizens want to prevent this from happening to themselves or loved ones, instead of showing you who exactly they need to avoid, this publication just gives you a copy shop and a stock photo, as if this is even remotely useful to anybody but the criminals. But then the news takes the blurring to another level, where it's not just the face, but any part of the body that would indicate race. As in 2020, San Francisco openly admitted it's not about protecting criminal identities, it's about protecting the narrative.
You see black and brown men all the time you see these mugshots either on television, news, movies, you name the media source, and the mind begins to associate that group with that type of activity. And there's a lot of science out there on this.
Which likely started back in 2017 as their public transportation wanted to withhold actual videos of crime to avoid stereotypes.
Do you believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform? That you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the great theory as it relates?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So you don't think? Do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble, or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
And now advertises his show as a dig at Elon.
Elon Musk is mad at me, and I just put out a statement about what happened between him, me, and the interview that he is apparently so upset about.
I'm about to die. This is my death right now. I'm about to die.
Ali Zacharias was hanging on for dear life and the life of her beloved French bulldog puppy Onyx after thieves snatched the dog in broad daylight. The suspect vehicle is described as an early 2000 white four-door Kia Forte with a missing hubcap on the driver's front side.
The woman that stole my dog was African American, as was the other 3 people in the car. There were 3 females, all overweight, and then there was a male driving, no tattoos. They're all wearing like sweats.
Now, the KTLA reporting, both on TV and in their article, specifically describes who exactly was stealing this French bulldog in Los Angeles. But Actual Justice Warrior saw that a popular YouTube news show covered this story but seemingly omitted who committed this crime.
And as far as the dog nappers, they took off in this white four-door Kia Forte with a missing hubcap on the front driver's side, and unfortunately their license plate appears to have been whited out. But hopefully there's enough identifiable information that some of these scumbags get caught.
Now, it's sad to me to see how far Phil has fallen, as I used to watch him every single day when leaving work for my commute home. But as his channel became more and more politically biased, I just knew I was no longer getting the news as much as I was receiving these same talking points from the mainstream media. And catching this brief glimpse of him covering a violent crime a 30-minute drive from his studio, it's actually tragic to see him find it more important to protect the narrative than protect his neighbors. And what a shoe-sized IQ take. You can't have free speech unless you pay me to speak on your free-to-use platform. I make decent money on YouTube, and since Elon won't monetize me on X, he must have a problem with Korean, Irish, bootleg, Sub-Zero looking, Christopher Walken sounding podcasters. I always knew he hated free speech and would suppress the most bizarrely diverse voices like Decoy. No, that's nonsense and they know it. But these former CNN imbeciles are so used to getting front-page gold sticker status for simply parroting the Democrat narrative, not knowing that beyond the backyard of their millionaire daddy's mansion, they simply can't compete with even Neanderthal commentary channels like me.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole... That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
So the corporate media sprinted to their screens to shout bloodbath if Trump loses, attaching the worrisome word to anti-migrant rhetoric, claiming Trump said migrants are not people alongside the bloodbath line.
He's even predicting a bloodbath. What does that mean? He's going to exact a bloodbath? There's something wrong here.
But the full context has nothing to do with what Pelosi is trying to fearmonger with.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line. And you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories.
So no matter how much the state-sponsored media tries to scare Americans with a 17-second clip, doesn't make us any more able to afford modern luxuries like food. And never before have we seen the establishment so terrified to lose an election. And the fact that it's over a guy that has 5 kids from 3 different women, a multiple-time felon that got shot in the face, a Donald that worked at McDonald's and also quit his very first shift. His story makes him sound more like a SoundCloud rapper than a president. And if that's the guy that has them terrified, I think the political establishment's control over the people is finally starting to crumble. Jack continues to stream his fatherless behavior, bumping into strangers to start scuffles that his hired hands have to handle for him.
Not so fast, little bro. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
As when he's not streaming with his security, he seems entirely different.
Yo, bro, what you gonna do about it? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Yeah, you finger the Island Boys, bro. You a hop in your whip. You ain't gonna do. Kids in the Island Boys fingering them and shit. Yeah. That boy Jack. Oh shoot.
Until he finds out his bodyguards can't protect him from guardrails.
Oh! Oh! No! 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 Help! 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 Break the window! Oh! 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 Can you hold it for me? Oh! Oh! No, my car, bro.
Vamos, baby. Vamos.
Oh, dude. My car. Holy no. No. Michael, are you good? Wait, let him have that. Let him have that. Let him have that. And then McKinley, can you just? I think you're no. Just do this. Or McKinley, can you film on here on the phone? And McKinley, come. Just make it look good. Look through here the whole time. Go over MacLeod. Driver's license with you?
Yeah, I got you.
You guys, all four of you were in the car? No. Me too.
Is I'm almost certain the entire incident was premeditated, as back in September he posted a text message of a girl allegedly wrecking his blue supercar, who coincidentally was the same girl he videoed at the latest crash, except the crash from this text wasn't his and was actually a photo from 5 years ago. And 9 months ago, when I covered Jack's fatherless antics, we found out he was picking fights with strangers, specifically to have that same girl screaming in the background, where 9 months ago she had much more clothes on and 50,000 less followers on Twitter, as her Instagram has blown up to over 1 million followers at the exact time Jack started these tactics. And it's not going to stop until he gets banned from even the shadier streaming sites, or worse, it'll end the life of somebody while trying to generate these increasingly worse viral clips. And when that finally does happen, I'll blame Jack, I'll blame the girls, I'll blame all the thirsty dudes that are purchasing her pictures, making them into millionaires. But most importantly, I'll blame all the failed fathers that produced absolutely everybody in that ecosystem of shame, or as I've been calling it, the daddy issues economy. A live streamer filming a contest portrays pretty much every negative stereotype about IRL streams.
I'm trying to find this RFID scanner. Where? You should jump in the water right now, just start swimming and you'll find it. Would you do that?
What?
You should jump in the water to find it for me.
Well, why don't you jump in with me?
I'll give you 20 bucks.
20 bucks?
I'll jump in after you.
We're jumping together.
Well,
Take off your clothes then.
You want me to take off my
Yeah,
clothes?
okay.
You want to see me naked?
Yeah, I sure do.
So obviously this person is unwell, whether it's her mental capacity, being under the influence, or uncontrollable thirst. Normal functioning adults don't act like this, especially when a camera is shoved in their face. But sadly, when a live streamer encounters somebody like that in the wild, their first instinct is, I'm gonna make content off of their confusion.
You still want a skinny dip?
Yeah. With you.
If you go first, we'll do rock, paper, scissors. If you go first, just can you look for the scanner?
I can jump in and not gonna get in trouble. Right?
No.
No. All right.
You should just jump in right now.
But I'm gonna jump in with my shoes on.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. Ready? Oh! Did you see her ass when she jumped in? Did you see her ass? Oh, that's so funny. You f***ed up. I really don't care. Oh, run. She's gonna... Wait, should we leave? Are they gonna call the cops?
And it was subtle, but I honestly think she just exposed herself for being a sociopath. Because look at her face when she believes she's just making funny content, compared to the face she makes when she hears she might go to jail over this. Absolutely nothing has changed about the incident that she just caused, except for the idea that she herself may be impacted by it. Which actually gives us some insight on the mentality needed to create viral IRL livestream content when you don't have any real skills or talent to showcase, other than being a public nuisance with a face just attractive enough to clickbait simps. YouTuber iShowSpeed is on a livestream tour through Europe, where crowds in Poland were psyched to see him live. Similar to the mobs of fans ecstatic to see him in Korea, except this time in Norway, these Norwegian fans angrily surrounded a souvenir store he was inside of, and when he finally emerged, his so-called fans started attacking him. Which was insane on the street level, as they began trying to snatch off his hair, throwing drinks on him, with one guy jumping off his car, trying to show Speed the bottoms of his feet. As yesterday, we saw the pinnacle of what happens when you combine daddy issues with a shoe-sized IQ. But in 24 hours, he was arrested and charged by the Mesa Police Department in Arizona.
Videotaping this crime spree is the best idea we ever had!
It's literally the perfect storm of someone with enough free time to do such a dumb thing, low enough intelligence to record themselves doing it, and never having anybody in his life to explain to him the kind of shame he brings to himself and his family. as the next day the Mesa Police Department announced they made an arrest, detaining the 27-year-old for spraying pesticides on produce at the Walmart, turning himself in and admitting to the theft and spraying of the pesticide, booking him in jail for 3 misdemeanors: criminal damage, endangerment, and theft, but 1 felony of introducing poison. Now this was the lowest level felony at Class 6, which if he has no prior convictions, he's eligible for just probation. But if it is a first-time, dangerous offense, prison time is mandatory. Set the precedence of when you commit a crime for social media. No matter how petty, this enhances your punishment based on how many impressions you made online. And I'm serious, if stealing a can of pesticide is punishable by 30 days in jail and a $500 fine, but you uploaded it to the internet and it was seen over 500,000 times, we're multiplying that by 500, which is like, I don't know, $25,000 and maybe 150 days in jail. I'm not a math Asian, but you get it. You amplify the crime by sharing it online, so it's time the justice system finally acts accordingly. And I'm not just talking about the stupid dude that dove off a car to touch his favorite social media star. I'm talking about everybody that sprinted through the streets with their phones out, just trying to get a whiff of speed like the fiends that they are. But for me to say super fake pranks is stupid content is just me snitching on myself for being old and irrelevant to the kids. The same way boomers say pop music today isn't real music is because they're just ignorant to the fact that they aren't the intended audience. I know that I Show Speed and his wacky dancing seems incredibly silly to me, but back in the 90s when I watched Kenan and Kel, I thought Kel's antics were hilarious, which were basically the TV version of I Show Speed today. Which makes sense, as Speed hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and just 3 years later is now sitting at over 26 million subscribers, where his videos receive at least 1 million views each, and his live streams easily do triple those numbers every single stream. And in a world of nuisance streamers and YouTuber scandals, Speed seems pretty alright, as in my opinion you can't really judge someone based on the actions of their worst fans, but in the same sentence, someone with his type of content should expect some of the worst fans known to man. And I'll be entirely honest, if I could trade in my struggles for subscribers as I panhandle my way to 600 for Speed's god-tier growth and unlimited riches, and all I gotta do is sacrifice some dignity and bark at some dogs, then I get to dance with K-pop stars, play soccer with world-class athletes, podcast with NBA superstars.
Gazing in my eye.
Yeah,
Come
you
on,
were
bro.
you were gazing.
No, cause really for real, back up from off.
I'm just like, this is like beautiful. Like,
then get slammed in WWE to sell some drinks for millions, then go perform on stage with basically a photoshopped Hollywood version of Decoy Voice, which I almost don't even want to show my face after that clip of that K-pop star. Like throw in some more footage of that gnome or that weirdo licking Speed's hands before you cut back to seeing me, because I literally look like if that K-pop star became a homeless addict and then Netflix did a reenactment of him hitting rock bottom, but then they used that Hulu casting director that saw Blake Griffin from the Clippers and said, yeah, this guy seems close enough. The streamer Sneeko got into an argument with a security guard at the venue. So after getting his teeth falcon punched into his esophagus, apparently this is his former UFC fighter friend just casually watching it go down, as Sneeko is now missing a chunk of his teeth.
This was the security guard at AF.
He was later seen speaking to the police. Now he did go on stream after to explain what happened in surprisingly good spirits.
I can't even like looking at my face smiling is just so stupid, bro. I literally look like a fentanyl addict, bro. I do have a good chin. Like if a jumping Superman punch from a stage, like right there, cannot knock me out, then I don't know what can.
If you're watching the security guard and they actually try to sue you, contact me. I'll take care of your legal fees. I got time. I'm bored. All you streamers, all you motherfuckers about to catch hands with some random people, and I'm gonna enjoy it, and I'm gonna pay their legal fund. I think that's my goal for this year.
Now I don't know how serious ABBA is about dumping cash into the legal funds of people who make streamers find out, but what an insane world we live in now, that one of the most successful internet commentators has pretty much put a bounty on the heads of social media users that create nuisance content. Just like how the Democrats told the rioters in 2020, go ahead and do your thing, we'll bail you out, ABBA straight up said, Falcon punch whoever you want, I'll fund the best attorneys available, I just want to see the content. Which is a lot like when Johnny was coming after me, but was also begging for some money to make it into China. I somewhat considered anonymously funding his entire trip to China for the sole purpose of watching him find out and subsequently covering it on this channel. But I ended up deciding against it because 1, it actually seemed evil on my part, but more importantly, I don't really have that kind of money. Although some people didn't mind the womp womp reaction, this individual did.
So what's the most traumatic event that you went through in your life?
That's a hard one. I've been through a lot. My mom threw a lot of around in the apartment and just broke a lot of stuff. Womp womp. Yeah. Yes.
So their partner found out, tracked them down, and did this.
I'm not shaking your hand. What's my most traumatic experience? I don't know, but I know what yours is.
Hey, that hurts.
So after the bully got his efforts back tenfold, they chased the guy down into the cleanest GameStop I've ever seen.
Yo, stay right there. Come on, come outside. Come outside. Come outside, GameStop.
Go get your little digital clicks and all your bullshit.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm gonna punch you in your face. Come outside the store so I can punch you in your face.
And apparently here he mooned the streamer and his crew.
What you talking about? You weirdo. You. Go.
This kick streamer is the perfect example of what I call the hypothetical thug. I would fight you if we won in this GameStop. I should punch you, but for some reason not right now. So I'll just throw this video game at you, but please don't touch me. Social media pranks are becoming progressively more pathetic.
Can we help you? Get you out of this class? You're in this classroom, man. So.
Wait, who are you?
I'm the professor.
Babe, this isn't funny. You can't play hide and seek with a blind person. You know that ain't right.
Get you settled, okay?
Where's the door?
That's right. Out the door, my friend.
But now with their so-called DoorDash prank, one student has simply had enough.
DoorDash for Ricky?
Legit.
Yeah, you ordered IHOP?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a distraction. Did you buy the syrup by chance?
The syrup?
Yeah.
Let me check. Are you sure you ordered syrup?
Bro, you guys do this every time.
You don't even order DoorDash. You don't even deserve syrup. You didn't even leave me a good tip. Like what? And what do you mean?
You make mistakes. Who the hell are you?
Bro, you
get it. Nobody likes you.
Dog. Don't grab my bag. My stuff. Yo, whoa, what's going on here? Like, go the bag. Don't put your hands on us. Don't put your hands on us. Don't put your hands on us. I don't know who you think you are. I don't know who the you think you are. I don't give a what are you gonna do? Get out of the I don't know you. Don't touch me. No, who the you think you are?
I'm trying to learn. Get out.
You're trying to learn?
Yeah, get out.
Clearly you ain't learning. You're in our face. You should be paying attention. Yo, you're like staring into my eyes, bro. I'm scared. Just please chill out. You're scaring me right now. I'm scared.
I'm going to FSU.
I love how Blue Shirt is simultaneously squaring up with 3 dudes standing below them on a staircase, and somehow he's the only person that doesn't look scared at this possible confrontation in a college classroom. Because I think the most important aspect about all of this is not the 3 guys pranking a college class. I just see the product of 3 failed fathers, squaring up and subsequently scurrying away from one dude in a blue shirt. And if they're somehow offended and angry at my assessment of social media pranks being a symptom of daddy issues, your emotional response at my words only reinforces my belief that your father has failed you. For these 2 kids on Kick, live stream snatching random people's meals.
Put your hand in my food again, and I'm throwing all of your phones. I will. How old are you? 5? Do you? All right, hold up. Do you?
Where his friend actually looks like he's gonna square up with her. And again, nobody sees this and thinks future livestream millionaires with their innovative content of bugging ladies eating lunch. No, even if we don't label it the same exact way, we all see this as fatherless behavior of some kids silently screaming, "Help." I never had a strong parental figure in my life to teach me how to properly act in society. Somebody please discipline me. Which again, is just the male version of daddy issues. As obviously everybody is uncomfortable with him, so he records, saves, and uploads this specific take to get the viewer engaged enough to watch the remaining 15 seconds of dancing. and his audience calls him out, saying this isn't New York City, begging him to just leave these people alone, pointing out just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that wasn't the only video featuring his team forcing random Japanese people to be in their TikToks, where it seems like cruelty is the content. And somehow TikTok looks the other way, labeling it as performed or supervised by professionals. Do not attempt. Just because you slap your Cash App in your profile doesn't mean you're a professional, and judging by their mediocre moves, even by TikTok standards, I don't think these are professional dancers. And what's worse is other clout-chasing idiots see these videos going viral, so they copycatted those actions in other Asian countries right after. This just sets the terrible precedence of tourists treating high-trust societies like Korea or Japan as a playground and the only way they can finally get people to pay attention to them, further deepening Japanese people's prejudices against us. But we're now seeing posters saying no circus performances here in both Japanese and English, saying Japan is not a theme park, crossing out a guy with a very specific haircut not commonly known to the Japanese. Also posting a sign that definitely couldn't be made in America, illustrating 3 individuals bothering an otherwise peaceful subway car. That roughly translates to, have manners, be aware of your surroundings, and care about the people around you. Specifically, be quiet in the car. Now I know people would be offended by their particular choices in animals, but I really wonder if whoever made this poster did it specifically to drive a point home, as anybody posting this in a Western country would immediately be fired. But although docile in public, Asian countries don't quite have the same chill as we do here. And judging how that poster was mainly written in Japanese, it makes me think they were exclusively communicating the message through the illustrations. As we have seen similar signs in New York City, showing an obviously Asian woman bothering what looks to be a Middle Eastern man, which is an interesting choice of representation, as I haven't been there in a while, but I don't recall there being an abundance of rambunctious Asian girls on the subway, so much that would warrant printing out and posting a sign.
Hey, bro, I don't run no damn until look at that. Time for the birthday. 3 times for the birthday.
Okay, so maybe things have changed. The point being, it's not a race thing, it's a culture thing. This guy finally got out of Japanese jail, only to say he learned nothing.
So I hope you're watching Toyonaga, and I'm going to continue to do IRL, travel the world, and you accomplish nothing.
Went to Thailand and continued to get pressed by Japanese men. And after his kick ban, he's now streaming in Tel Aviv. Until he drunkenly encountered this guy in the streets.
He said, like, you gay. You're gay? No, I'm not. You want to fight right now? We can fight right now. Put this right here. I'm gay? I'm gay? I'm gay? Let's go then. I'm gay? I'm gay? Disrespect me, bro. I say... Don't touch him.
After acting hard to some random dude, this guy in blue came out of nowhere.
Act like a gangster. Come here, talk shit to me. You act like a gangster. Then what are you? Don't know me. Who are you? Who are you? What I do, man? Don't touch me. You don't know what? Yo, what was the problem earlier? What was the problem earlier? Hold it. Don't be acting like a gangster, man. Yeah! Yeah! Y'all started with me, go to jail. Y'all need to go to jail. Arrest that. Yes. You dumbass monkey. You monkey. Go to jail, monkey.
And I'm censoring it, but he's calling him both a monkey and the hard R, somehow boasting about being beaten.
I was chilling. I was talking to those 2 Israeli dudes. And all of a sudden, 10 poor Ethiopians start attacking me because I'm rich and I speak English. They're jealous or something. Sorry, you're a second-class citizen here.
And at some point in time, someone else runs up on him.
Guys, that was like day 1. Oh! Yo, when you run up on me? Yo, what the f***? Yo, you say you're a book? Yo, chill out.
And the day after, he appears to have a ridiculous discount Harry Potter scar across his skull that allegedly cost him over $400 to treat, as he apparently needed a tetanus shot as well. Imagine having such a sad existence that your only opportunity to make money is to literally document yourself being bullied across the globe, like some sort of bootleg Nat Geo crocodile hunter, but from the perspective of the prey. So I honestly hope he just learns his lesson and walks away from streaming before he's left with something worse than a literal L on his forehead. After bothering people in Japan, getting knocked out in their streets, and then thrown in jail, his buddy is continuing their legacy in Tel Aviv, but this guy is now quickly realizing Thailand is not Japan.
I wanna f***ing gut your laws.
Hey.
Yo, I didn't mean to. I pay money. I pay. I take off. Look. Wait. Yeah, I give money. I didn't mean to.
No.
And he quickly transitioned into a coward, as apparently this wasn't the first time he got pressed in Thailand.
I'm YouTuber. Yo, stop. Don't do that. I'm American. I'm American. Alright, you wanna fight? Alright. That's okay. Okay, you got it. Okay, I'll leave. Alright.
And for some reason, it always disproportionately irritates me when travelers go to other countries, offend the locals and their culture, but then try to deflect with, "I'm an American," as if that's some sort of Harry Potter spell that protects you from consequences in the third world. Because if he gets tossed into a Thai prison, even though he looks like he does, I don't think he plays in the WNBA, so I doubt Biden would be freeing him anytime soon. Because he's not the first tourist to flex first world citizenship.
I would like the American police right here, right now. Go Canada! Go Canada, please, man, I'm serious!
See ya!
Go Canada!
See ya, bro.
After following up on the not Somalian guy getting branded with a literal L on his forehead, I received a tip from someone that I later checked on for myself that he was actually trying to come after me, begging his couple hundred followers to mass report and brigade me. Now, I normally wouldn't respond to stuff like this and don't want to get personally involved in any Johnny drama.
I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
And I'm afraid I'm gonna have to say no.
But I've recently received an uptick in angry emails and messages suggesting stuff will be done to me, which I never take seriously, but honestly I think this may be connected, as he recently went on his public Discord server that I could just waltz right onto, saying I am the hard R word. People are stealing his IP, leaving out and blurring his name. The main target is Decoy Voice. Let's shut his channel down, calling me a Chinese racial slur, saying they want to censor my channel and to copyright strike me.
Look!
Oh my.
Is that the police?
Yes. Hey,
Johnny.
It's
Decoy.
You know what? Totally disregard that last voicemail because you obviously have your hands tied. Good luck.
He randomly encountered a protest in the street. When the police were involved, he began to antagonize them for his supposed content.
Oh my god, we crashing out.
But then begins to heckle this female copper.
You a bad I swear to God. You a bad I'll take you to dinner. I swear to God, I'll change your life. I'll change your life, baby. Baby, I'll change your life, I promise you. You a bad right here.
Which goes very badly for him.
I'm in the sidewalk. I'm in the sidewalk. What the Okay, let's go.
As another angle shows him being carried away like a wee little lad, and being stuffed into a bus, all while crying about being an American again.
It's my stuff, don't steal my stuff. What are you stealing? I'm from America, I'm in the sidewalk, what did I do?
Give me passport.
I will, but calm down. You're recording right now on camera.
Passport.
I'm giving you it. Police brutality. I'm from America, you can't arrest me anyway. You're gonna call the embassy.
Now he luckily is released from custody, but immediately begins calling them homophobic slurs.
What the type of bull is that? You a police, you think I'm scared of these motherfuckers? Nah, you. You.
And I swear if this was on old school cable television, his show synopsis for the pathetic pirate would be, little dude runs around, bothering adults, gets scared when he's finding out, but then acts brave shouting slurs as he flees, while his fans laugh at his fatherless behavior, with episodes like live streaming until you die screaming. And that description is equal parts sad and accurate, because every movie genre, TV show, or even YouTube niche has a specific formula that they loosely follow, including mine. But after I've covered his nonsense on 7 videos getting 8 million views, it's basically the same story on repeat. Johnny Somali brought his nuisance streams to South Korea, where he started insulting the locals by disrespecting the statues of comfort women, and dancing on them to try to recreate that outrage relevance like he did in Japan. So as he and his lame friends annoy the local girls, he suddenly can't even cross the street without local PD tracking him down, as apparently they watch his streams and find him on buses, and locals share footage of his antics to show the police. But as nothing really happens after this, one random Korean cowboy takes it upon himself.
Trust me. Yeah, we're gonna have a great night.
Go to Johnny's stream, we're gonna have a good time.
Whoa!
Whoa!
As a second angle actually shows Johnny getting floored.
Whoa! No, hell no.
Oh no.
Hell no.
Who the f is
Hell
this?
no. Bring your ass back here, boy. The f is your problem?
It's on camera. It's on camera. It's on camera.
Poor eyes, big eyes, keep walking. Keep walking.
It's on
They got
camera.
my phone.
You better get your phone. Yo, give him his phone. Give him his phone. Give him his phone.
Bro, get Johnny.
Nothing annoys me more than someone shouting how much they want to fight you while having ample opportunity to fight you despite never actually doing it. As that Korean cowboy smacked your friend, stole your phone, then tossed it into the street while there's 2 of you with sticks, only one of him, and you both still did nothing but cry about it. And I predicted this would happen over a year ago, that even in the best case scenario he would gain notoriety for his stupidity, and then everybody that would either randomly see him in the streets or see him on stream and track him down would now see him as this piñata person. But instead of cracking him open for candy, they're taking swings for precious internet fame. Later that same night, they started picking fights with random girls outside.
Oh my god.
By the way, Maria, get the f out of here. It's cuss me again out. I swear to God.
Do that.
As apparently he's all riled up because that other streamer girl tried to throw water on him. So Johnny's Bonnie to his Clyde threw a drink on her.
Don't try to throw a drink on me. Yeah, you don't. This shit, you know. Shut up. Shut up.
And as I tried to see what happened after, he quickly deleted that video, bragging that he smacked her camera across the street and immediately deleting the saved stream. But the internet is forever, as you can clearly see from the girl's angle, Johnny smacking her phone.
Don't ever lie on me again.
And Cancel Johnny's on X saved the stream, which I'm not sure I can even show on here, as it is Johnny assaulting a girl, as he records himself walking up to her, smacking her phone to the floor as she falls right after.
If you want to run up, run up. I'm live. If I wasn't scared, I wouldn't be live. I broadcast my live location every day, every night, bro. I don't care. Come get me. Come get me! What's up?
때렸다. 와, 레전드.
You what? 야, 왜요? 잠깐만. 아, 형님이에요? 와.
Is he the Korean Al Gaib, the prince that was promised, or just your typical Korean guy, raised on Taekwondo, served his mandatory 2 years in their military, with an innate ability to pop out the bushes and take out 2 weak bottoms at the same time? More local Koreans were tracking them down in the streets, snitching out their activities to the police.
They are falsely accusing me of having drugs and the weapons in my place, so I'm gonna have the cops.
What do you mean falsely accused of having weapons? I don't think this samurai sword came out of Hammerspace, and whoever recorded you guys getting sprayed outside that house actually caught you carrying your pew pew that at one point in time you actually drew. As those beatdowns began when the local streamers, angry about how he was helping Johnny, found and surrounded his home.
I know they're running up on Hank's crib crazy, bro. Y'all not doing this to Hank, bro. No, chat. No, no, no.
And again, Johnny and Johnny Jr. reminded us of their gangsta fluid status, seamlessly switching between "I'll fight you" to "I'll sue you if you hurt me."
못 들어간다고 이 새끼야 못 들어간다고
You got something to say?
병신이 얼굴 까먹잡고
hit me.
어쩌고
When this come down, he gonna f your ass up, I promise you. I swear to God, I'll slap one of you.
족병신 에이즈 걸린 새끼가 씨 한국에서 한국말 써
I wanna slap the
있어 이 새끼 내병변 장애 있나봐 때렸다 레전드 오 엄마 야
I swear to God. What's up?
And while this Korean is kicking them, he's specifically saying this is about Johnny violating those comfort woman statues.
We got you on camera. Oh, you know, come down. This is getting crazy. This is getting crazy.
So while Johnny's jumping in an elevator, Johnny Jr. is still trying to escape.
이 새끼야 야 소말리 왜요
빨리 말해줘.
참아 아 형님이에요? 형님 레전드
Then Johnny's Asian Sherpa shows up with his sword.
경찰 불러? 야 탱크 유 여기 개새끼야 야 불러 이 개새끼야 불러
And after their beatings concluded, the police seemingly only searched Johnny.
예, 저분은 총기 있다는 소리가 있어서 소지품 확인 부탁드렸어요. 예.
Now I'm hearing reports that he was on the run, refusing to authorize further testing or signing any statements, which sounds a lot like what happened in Japan right before they tossed him in prison, as it almost sounds like he sees incarceration as just a cost of doing business, but this is actually going to hurt him, as his YouTube channel he struggled to get 20,000 subscribers just got deleted, but the thing that over 10 million people did see in just 2 days was you and your whole crew getting cracked by that one Korean dude. And as I said in my last video, he needs to flee the country. As Korean live streamers are saying, if you can find him, I'll give you 1 million Korean won, which is just find him in the street to receive over $700 US. And even popular Korean streamers with over 200,000 subscribers are straight up challenging him to a match, where Johnny can get $10,000 US for winning just for the opportunity to get him in the ring. As there's now an entire genre of Korean live streaming of just searching for Johnny in the streets, as he is now essentially public enemy number one.
쫓아가긴 했지만 별다른 저항은 하지 않았고.
And that's not me blurring them out. Every Korean news outlet is protecting the identities of the Koreans attacking him, but just showing Johnny and Johnny's Jr.
주먹을 날리는 일이 벌어지기도 했습니다.
So word was Johnny was going to stream on the only platform he's not banned on. But since the streets are crawling with streamers looking to take one, blow up their channel viewership, allegedly, Johnny had to go into police protection. And in a super weird way, this is exactly what he wanted. As even when Johnny himself continues to re-upload his crash out content, he specifically tags me, Decoy Voice, so I can be sure to see it. As this even has NBC News reporting on Johnny Somali or Ramsey Khalid Ishmael, with Dexerto stating he's facing up to 7 years in jail for sharing AI-generated content, putting his previous actions under a microscope, which now may actually lead to terror charges. I hope those $3 super chats were worth it, as he's been basically begging for international notoriety, and now he's put both himself and South Korea's justice system in the spotlight. So if they want to avoid advertising themselves as spineless jellyfish to the international community, further inviting more unemployed behaviors to plague their streets, they're gonna need to lock up Johnny for a very long time, as those videos might actually be his final goodbye to the internet. So he switched to live streaming inside what appeared to be an empty room, until internet sleuths caught a brief glimpse of a blurry pizza box that locals were quickly able to identify. And as he tried to antagonize the Koreans even further, they caught a reflection of the room off his cell phone, identifying a particular exit sign and an internet cafe monitor, as the chat filled with messages stating they knew where he was staying, as shortly after that Korean Navy SEAL found him in the street. But luckily for Johnny, the local authorities were nearby to rescue him.
My hat. 자, 이쪽으로 오세요. 거기 hat.
Arresting the Korean UDT SEAL that showed absolutely no remorse.
야, 굿나잇, 소말리. 굿나잇.
And to my understanding, that guy had his bail, luxury hotel, and upcoming legal fees crowdfunded, as he's basically seen as both a local and international hero.
I like to make content that makes people violent. I hate Asians. I think all Asians need to be exterminated. Somebody please put this on the news tomorrow.
Which this too turns out to be a crime in Korea, punishable by up to 7 years in jail. On top of the time he went into their subway system, broadcasting that he has a device.
나에겐 폭탄이 있다. 나에겐 폭탄이 있다.
Which again violates local laws that could get him an additional 2 years in prison. So Dexerto said 10 years in prison. My math here adds up to 16, with some people even saying 29 years, but I guess the sentence length is irrelevant when Korea had an over 99% conviction rate, as AI technology went from silly shows procedurally generated for YouTube to genuinely phenomenal text-to-video imagery. I actually believe AI technology has gone too far, and we really need to consider turning back AI before it can actually pass the Turing test, because what I'm about to show you right now is actually terrifying me. So just as an example, I'll take a random video I did last week, talking about this struggling streamer coming after me. After following up on the not Somalian guy getting branded with a literal L on his forehead, taking a snippet of the captions and plugging it into the AI, you actually get insane results.
After following up on the not Somalian guy getting branded with a literal L on his forehead.
I received a tip from someone that I later checked on for myself, that he was actually trying to come after me. Now I normally wouldn't respond to stuff like this, and don't want to personally be involved in any Johnny drama. Saying I am the hard work, people are stealing his IP. So following up on the not so modern guy getting branded with a literal L on his forehead. I received a tip from someone that I later checked on for myself, that he was actually trying to come after me. Making his couple hundred followers and mass report and brigade me. Now I normally wouldn't respond to stuff like this, and don't want to personally be involved in any giant drama, but I recently received an uptick in angry emails. The messages suggest that stuff will be done to me, which I don't take seriously. But honestly, I think this may be connected, as he recently went on this public Discord server that I could bounce right onto, saying the harder word. People are stealing his IP, leaving out and blurring his name. The main target is Decoy Voice. Let's shut his channel down, calling me a Chinese racial slur, saying they want to censor my channel and to copyright strike me.
As protests continue throughout the country to absolutely zero results, Columbia University students have taken to stomping the yard for a ceasefire. Which is sad how they've actually taken the fake meme of 5 TikTok dances you can do to help the other war and made it into a reality. Because as the university began putting up walls around the school, these students went right back to essentially rain dancing for justice. And whatever the heck this is. But the worst part about all of this is that neighboring NYU, these students have no idea what they're actually protesting for.
And what would you say is the main goal with tonight's protest?
I think the goal is just showing our support for Palestine and demanding that NYU stops. I honestly don't know all of what NYU's doing.
Is there something that NYU's doing?
I really don't know. I'm pretty sure they're... Do you know what NYU's doing? About what? About Israel. Why are we protesting here?
Palestine will be free!
I wish I was more educated. I'm not either.
It's really interesting how just last election cycle we saw similar protests from nearly the same exact group. Plenty of people protesting for George Floyd despite never actually watching the arrest tape or reading the actual autopsy. Plenty of people marching and donating to BLM despite not actually knowing what the organization was really doing. And now, plenty of useful idiots getting caught up in the same social media storm for justice and ruining their single greatest chance to propel them above poverty. Because these activists aren't marching to the airport to go stop the war themselves, they're marching to McDonald's to shame them into somehow stopping the war. And I admit, when I saw them protesting McDonald's cheeseburgers and their contributions to war, I was sure to go stop by my local McDonald's to go pick up some McNuggets. Not because I personally support conflict overseas, but it's just to show how much I despise this new era of performative activism for social media. So much that I'll even eat overcooked, overpriced, and likely to end my life early fried foods just to offset these slacktivist efforts.
Up, up with liberation. Down, down with occupation. Nice. Good job, everyone. Slay.
Behind me, what we're starting to see is that people that were part of this encampment have begun returning. But the first thing they yelled when they came back is, "This is not over."
But this time, with fight training.
Going out where we came in.
At the same time, though, we are also covering our most vital organs in our body. At your temples, your elbows will be tucked in at your wrists.
Yeah, right.
And they weren't the only ones, as apparently across the country at Emory University, they're also teaching military tactics that they apparently learned in summer camp. Because even though they're in college, I don't quite believe they're getting educated on the things that they're angry about.
Why they're protesting here today?
Because I want to see empire fall.
What empire?
From the U.S. to Israel. The empire that's propped up by capitalism.
And
free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free Haiti, free Hawaii, free Puerto Rico, liberation for all.
As over in Canada, their college activists don't even know how to spell the movement they're marching for. I think the silent majority is classically conservative, as nobody in school goes viral for simply stating, "I like living in America just the way it is." But somebody like this will be shared thousands of times. And I'll never understand the allure of seeing her and still thinking, this makes me want to become a foot soldier in their soy-scented infantry. But this guy might actually know why.
Do you think the majority of these college students honestly know exactly what they're protesting for?
They are basically being bilked for money. They have no idea. It's the next cool thing to do. The average person, I think, at these protests is the kid that isn't cool or good looking enough to be invited to a house party.
And isn't the only one saying this.
It's become the thing to do. It's a fad. Some of the kids are out there and they don't know what they're protesting about. It's become a fad.
And I think part of the problem is young people aren't having enough sex, and so they go on the hunt for fake threats.
And I've honestly thought the same exact thing, as I remember when I covered these Stop Oil activists in detail, just realizing how much free time and effort goes into accomplishing absolutely nothing, and if anything, forcing us into burning more oil into the atmosphere just by dealing with them. I had this entire segment about how you can tell they're all losers, just based on the fact that they don't have anything better to do than to protest a lost cause. Because nobody that just landed the job of their dreams, or is finally gonna go on that vacation of a lifetime, or just got that text from their crush, "Come over, my roommate is gone," has the time to make tiny shields out of garbage cans and shout at the cops. But then I actually edited out that entire monologue because it just felt too mean to tell these activists, haha, why can't you losers get laid? Because most people I know would rather party with these guys and their $500,000 party budget than these guys behind their trash cans spending time with her. And when the police stopped their little robot from delivering them food, they were very upset again.
Actively blocking food and water from coming in. This is not normal. It's unacceptable.
It's also
Bring
not legal.
food in now.
You cannot deny people food and water in an effort to get them to do something against their will because they say, oh, they're free to leave if they're hungry. You cannot use a mechanism of torture to make people do something against their will.
So for a movement that seems intent on stopping one of the most best equipped military forces in the world, they seem awfully delicate when it comes to actual conflict, as simply being annoying never stopped an actual war. But sadly, California's Highway Patrol appeared puzzled at the protesters' wall of unemployedness, as they added barrels to their blockade of likely EBT recipients. Now these barrels apparently were filled with concrete that the coppers had to bolt cut them out of, to which they weren't even actually locked into.
Alright, let go of your fingers. Let go. Let go. Let go.
Oh, they're twisting it.
Let go.
They're twisting it for no reason.
Let go of the bar. Let go of the bar.
Twisting medical.
Let go of the bar.
Stop squeezing my hand and twisting it. The rebar is cutting the inside of my hand. Stop. Stop. Stop.
Let go of the
Stop. Stop. You're hurting me.
Let go
Stop.
of the rebar. He's free. He's free. He's free.
Take him out. You got the arms? Okay. Get set on. The bike.
And what an infuriatingly stupid way to spend your Saturday. Not even stuck inside a barrel on the street, but just holding on to a stick so you can't be removed from the roads. And I know, this happened on April 16th, which was a Tuesday, but every day is a Saturday when you're unemployed. But countrywide, these college protests are being swiftly smashed by their local law enforcement agencies, treating them like the toddlers they're acting like.
They're hurting me. Ow! 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 Help!
And even USC has now canceled their graduation ceremony, citing safety, to which they turned off replies, but the class of 2024 is obviously upset.
So USC just canceled our graduation. Like, it's actually comical at this point. If you don't know, the seniors that are graduating college right now are the seniors that graduated in 2020, where we didn't have a high school graduation, and now we are seniors about to graduate, getting ready for our first real graduation, and it just got canceled.
But I honestly don't think it's as much the city to blame as it's the parents, but that's an entirely different story. But what I really mean is, the media is becoming Godzilla. And although that's the dumbest thing I've said, it's still true, as Godzilla loves to destroy Japan, but if anything else destroys Japan, he's pissed. The same way our media doesn't seem to care when the left destroys the fabric of society in America. But if anything else happens to do anything remotely similar, how dare they destroy the city? That's our thing. As these protests have now cancelled UCLA classes in the middle of the semester, where their campus is now filled with communist recruitment papers and Soviet graffiti. As universities back east hold dance parties for justice, colleges up north have straight up been shut down, where the students are now joining together in prayer. And I honestly have no problem with the freedom of religion, so if these college kids want to all convert to Islam and adopt the ideologies that are seemingly very incompatible with the modern day progressive left, by all means, let them. I just don't think that was the original plan when these parents helped their kids work hard, get good grades, high SAT and ACT scores, attend all those extracurriculars to get into the Ivy League, all for the low price of $90,000 annually, and after 4 years that diploma is absolutely useless. But at least they got experience in sleeping in a tent and being told to leave by the police, as that's probably more applicable to their actual life path than whatever they're teaching in college anyways. Self-proclaimed regular guy and TikToker Trevor Abney recently went on a rant about everything being too expensive.
Why is everything so expensive? 4 years ago, my rent was $1,200 a month at a luxury apartment complex. It is now $2,100 I went to the grocery store yesterday, right? And got 3 bags of chips, some ground turkey, and some vegetables. And it was $67! What? This morning I got an email from someone claiming to be from the Democratic Party. And they said, what would your rate be to post positive videos about Joe Biden? And I replied back, honestly, I know nothing about the economy. I don't pretend to know anything about the economy. And I know nothing about politics, and I'd rather stay out of it. So they responded back, we understand you're not a fan of the Democrat Party right now. How much would it cost? I was like, you know what? I wonder how bad they want me to post this. 50 grand. And they said yes.
Because if some random TikToker can get 50K to say, stop being afraid of being poor, what do you think they pay a Taylor Swift to endorse their ticket again? Because even major news outlets say the same, that a pop star may be Biden's last hope. A famous singer that he doesn't even know who she is. And I guess these are interchangeable. And for every Trevor Abner out there that refuses to sell out his values for a few stacks, I'm sure there's plenty of influencers that wouldn't hesitate, as I myself have said yes to some brand deals, but no to many more. But if I, Decoy Voice, suddenly start telling you to run out there and get some random pharmaceutical, I'm entirely certain you would know it's because I got a huge payout that included at least 3 commas in the dollar amount. So I strongly believe when actual adults see NFL superstars randomly running out to get a stack of injections in the most inorganic ad endorsement ever, real people don't actually believe he'd be doing that without the payout in the millions of dollars. So when a TikToker off the cuff complains about not being able to afford rent, the alleged $50,000 to get him to suddenly say the opposite isn't convincing the people that also can't afford rent. It's only there to target the easily manipulated masses that get their values, medical decisions, and most importantly, votes from the television, the social media algorithms, and now TikTokers.
It's really fun having them. What I realized is there's so much prejudice against refugees, mostly because people don't know them.
Lisa says she feels like she has her own personal chef, as Wildande loves cooking. ¿Te gusta la ocupación? Sí.
Now obviously everybody's coming to the same conclusion.
That just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
Where I was almost certain that we abolished the ability for wealthy landowners to keep other people in their homes in exchange for free labor, which would be surprising, but is definitely on brand for how the Democrats view immigrants.
Why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here.
But if I learned anything in the last few years, is you can get away with some pretty heinous actions as long as you hide it under the veil of wokeness. Affirmative action is just another way of saying, I don't think these minorities are smart enough to compete with these other minorities. So colleges having the official stance of bigotry sounds insane. Just imagine if we treated academia like we did the NCAA, where every single D1 college now needs to have equal representation of people that look like Decoy on their defensive line. College football scores would be in the hundreds every single game, but at least I would be able to shed a tear and say, those terrible football players look just like me. And when politicians put their careers over the people, it's time to vote them out. And that's why I'm ecstatic to announce my campaign to run away from all of this.
You refuse to call it a in front of everybody.
I need you to understand that this is not.
It's not okay that there's a genocide happening. You're not actively against it.
You're lying.
Then just say it's a genocide. Just say it. Over 30,000 people are dead, AOC. You can't just say it for once. Just say the word.
And you're going to cut this and you're going to clip this so that it's completely out of context. I already said that it was. And y'all are just going to pretend that it wasn't over and over again. It's f***ed up, man. And you're not helping these people. And you're not helping them.
You refuse to.
You're not helping them.
Now honestly, I don't like much about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or any of her so-called solutions to our political issues, but I also despise this style of protest, and it's not Olia from Freedom News. It's the insane people that think stalking someone you disagree with and ambushing them in public shouting, comply with my demands, and parrot all the same NPC talking points I was programmed with, because if you don't agree with my emotionally deranged state, it's gonna make me more emotionally deranged. The problem with AOC is, during all those BLM summer love riots, this was the exact audience she tried to ally with, not understanding that the left always eventually eats itself. As back in 2020, she tweeted how activists won't use polite language because it's easier to ignore, and the whole point of protesting is to make people feel uncomfortable, addressing those who would complain about protester demands. So just a few years later, she's becoming those same politicians complaining about protesters making her uncomfortable, when she actually cultivated this type of aggressive, in-your-face activism that even she acknowledges helps nobody, does nothing other than give full-grown adults that can't actually accomplish their goals themselves something to make them feel a little less useless.
You should be enraged! You should be enraged! You should be enraged in the time that is going on! That's what me!
Calm down, young lady.
So what's with this new wave of toddler politics? If society doesn't operate exactly how I see fit, I'm going to throw a literal fit, stamp my feet, shout my slogans until you get sick of hearing me and have to cater to my tears. As when Vance went on the popular Full Send podcast, AOC just had to chime in stating, "Why are you sitting like that?" Possibly because the man in her life, for some reason, doesn't need to sit like that, as apparently she's the only person that needs this sitting position. As the situation at the border becomes increasingly out of control, first responders media had this interaction in Arizona.
If you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am.
Now the whole "you are going to know who I am" sounds ominous, but I guess the best case scenario is he's planning on being on American Idol and will one day blow the country away with his phenomenal falsetto. Worst case scenario, he's this guy, a leader of a religious party from the Middle East that just did 12 years in prison, where apparently he was setting up a group to commit terrible things against his country. Now, is this person saying insane things to random journalists at the border the same guy that just did over a decade behind bars? I don't know. Possibly, but don't ask me, as I still believe the NYPD copper and Actual Justice Warriors video is indeed Tim Pool from Timcast IRL. At 1:26 a.m., the dolly loses power, but as it returns, they turn right into the Baltimore Bridge's support beam, accelerates, then loses power again, and blows directly into the beam, causing it to collapse in a mass casualty incident.
Yo! What the
And the aftermath in the morning displays the bridge has fully collapsed into the sea. As this will now impact practically all shipping in the Maryland area for years, the feds are now investigating. As Andrew Elswick points out, why this bridge had no fenders, compared to other bridges that see similar ship traffic having these barriers that protect them from the event of direct ship collisions. Especially when our bridges have been hit before, they install these dolphins to prevent that from happening again, to which the Baltimore Bridge had them, but only around the surrounding power lines, not the actual bridge people are driving across. But what was our Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, been focusing on?
If an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or it would have been, in New York was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices. I don't think we have anything to lose by confronting that simple reality, and I think we have everything to gain by acknowledging it and then dealing with it, which is why the Reconnecting Communities, that $1 billion, is something we want to get to work right away.
Thanks, America. I'm so glad you continuously pass trillion-dollar spending bills to send $14 million for Egyptian college tuitions, $500,000 on a diversity, equity, and inclusion zoo, and $850,000 for a gay senior home. It's not like our airplanes are disintegrating in the skies, our trains are derailing and sending toxic chemicals into our rivers, and now boats are sinking our bridges and blocking our supply chain. I'm really glad to know our top politicians are busy identifying the racism of bridges, not fixing them, but identifying that our forefathers didn't build bridges to, cross. They built them specifically to block underprivileged youth from poor communities from getting to our beaches.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology.
ABC News did report that the Democrat governor does regret saying black kids don't know what a computer is. But honestly, I don't think that's something that can just slip out of your mouth unless it was something that you actually believed. As nobody accidentally suggests, I don't think Asian kids know how to do long division, and the only reason someone would say, I don't think Asians know how to drive, is if the thought had previously crossed into your lane without using their blinkers, smashing into your side mirror.
Unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community.
So no wonder he panders to the African American community in the most stereotypical ways possible, as when his support from black voters is plummeting right before the election.
John, there is significant softness in the support for Joe Biden among core Democrats. In this poll, he's carrying black voters by 61 points. Well, that sounds like a lot, but he carried them by 84 points back in 2020. Latino voters, a very slight Biden edge in this poll, but it was a 21-point advantage in the exit polls back in 2020.
He rushes back from vacation to eat fried chicken and talk basketball with a black family. But that wasn't exclusive to them, as he also ate pizza with an Italian family, which is still better than when he squashed the Asians' affirmative action lawsuits against the Ivy League, but then he brought a Korean pop group to the White House, most of which don't even speak English. Adam Francisco was recently doing street interviews while wearing his Trump Vance 2024 tank, when this gentleman gets mad at his existence.
Look at this weird guy. He's never lifted weight in his life.
They call us weird.
Are you really gonna hit me? Are you really gonna hit me? You wanna go to jail for assault? You look like
what's wrong with the Democrats?
You look like
Now that's the face of a man that just realized internet arguments aren't real life arguments, as the replies all shared similar thoughts that everything from his run to his appearance lets you know that he was a strong Harris supporter. Which got me thinking, why are there subtle things that you can do or wear that communicate to the world that you are 100% accepting of all the left's NPC programming, thus harmless? From an effeminate fake charge to a wide-eyed empty middle finger, or even something as simple as wearing a medical mask in public in 2024, lets me know almost to a certainty that you're voting for Kamala Harris, voted for Joe Biden, supported us funding the war in Ukraine but not in Gaza, were terrified of January 6th but thought the BLM riots were justified, and everybody had to get the COVID shots no matter what, but also don't tell women what to do with their bodies. And that list can keep going back to Coney 2012, and you can almost guarantee all that from someone simply appearing liberal. So when a guy charges at you for wearing a Trump shirt, both Adam and that old man inherently knew not to be afraid, as there are several circumstances of these Antifa types being mostly defenseless, where they LARP as dangerous rioters in Black Bloc, but oftentimes find themselves facing the floor. And this isn't exclusive to America, as even in France, these far left groups are identical to ours. Which brings me to this meme that even Elon reposted recently. It basically stated that people that are typically defenseless, women and low testosterone men, take in information through a consensus filter as a safety mechanism. So they don't think, is this true? They think, will others be okay with me thinking this is true? So if the only time these weak-willed individuals feel safe is when they're proudly parroting liberal talking points, starts to appear weak. The first presidential debate of 2024 between Donald Trump and an incredibly focused Joe Biden, they quickly lost his thoughts in his brain fog.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
And unfortunately, Trump, like most Americans, don't speak Bidenese.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
And now all of America knows the man with the nuclear codes doesn't even remember the topic of a sentence he started moments ago. And the reason I made that sentence kind of sound like Dr. Seuss is because he's starting to look like him too.
When you say conversations happening, what do you mean?
I think people are talking. I think the conversations range from whether he should be in this race tomorrow morning.
And the same with CNN.
And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside?
And basically all the liberal media outlets are now prepping their base for a replacement for Biden. As curiously, Venezuelan Governor Gavin Newsom was coincidentally there to witness Biden's demise. I'm sorry, I meant California's governor. It's just that he made so much of California look like a third world country, it's easy to mix up those two locations. As at the same time, Trump is making appearances at a Bronx barbershop in Deep Blue, New York. And I'm telling you right now, if Trump came out of there with deep 360 waves and one of those crispy beards they spray on at the end, that image would go more viral than his mugshot, more viral than the time he got popped in the face on stage but stayed to say fight. Because at this point in time, I think the masses actually see supporting Trump as cool. As what do you see the Democrats doing? Having weird dance parties with 50-year-old rappers?
The aftermath is you touching me. Yo, it's destiny that we connected, girl.
Having their leaders speak to voters like they're literal toddlers.
Now I'm going to put my teacher glasses on because this is really serious, like a final, and there's no late work. I need you to take yourself and 3 friends to the ballot box and make your voice heard. You have to vote. I'm going to repeat that again.
And whatever the heck this is, as if feeding Doritos to feminists while mocking communion was gonna sway a single vote. So I'm suddenly starting to see a generational shift occurring, the same way I saw all the things my parents' generation loved as lame. Now it's all these older, out-of-touch political groups shoving Doritos and irrelevant rappers down your throat, thinking, why don't the kids think this is cool?
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
CNN started melting down.
That is a dangerous conspiracy theory to be spreading to America.
MSNBC suggested it was dangerous.
One Haitian migrant in particular who said that people are really scared for their lives.
And Democrat congressmen are nearly in tears.
The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio. Aliens are eating pets? My God.
Which, this is a real video on YouTube right now, and it's terrifying. So please take my word for it and do not watch that video, as the cats that have seen it are beginning to mobilize, and it's adorable. And speaking of European invasions, D-Day wasn't the last time they've seen beach landings from foreign forces, as this is currently occurring all across Europe. And has more recently begun in California as well, that the draft is actually being considered in congressional bills in 2025 that oddly refer to automatically registering every male citizen from age 18 to 26 for the Selective Service, but every other male person residing in the US, which makes the whole ignoring the pouring of military-age males through our borders actually makes sense now.
We will very quickly make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So after his over 90-minute monologue, everybody was on their feet to make America great again. Even Biden almost says it too.
So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit to make America think about it.
And now his people are actually saying it.
So yes, this November we're going to make America great again.
I think Tim Pool did an amazing job with the limited amount of time he had with the president.
We better win. We're not gonna have a country.
Which is probably why he's already sitting on over 700,000 views on a live stream just last night, when he typically sees a third of that viewership typically. And when you look for Biden's online imprint, this is the result you get when you search for the President of the United States, a fake AI channel of him playing video games with Trump. Because obviously nobody's actually searching for his actual YouTube page, as they struggle to pull in even 10,000 views. And in what world does some weird Kirkland brand Sub-Zero get more views than the sitting President of the United States of America? Apparently it's this one, and it's terrible, because even though I have somewhat of a following online, I can acknowledge that I'm fairly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, as I always one day hope to get on Timcast IRL, and I have been to the Cast Castle, was on their other pop culture show, and got to very briefly meet Tim. But now that he's having Donald Trump, Kanye West, Joe Rogan, and Alex Jones on a show, I know my window to get on there has closed. And that's coming from someone that is apparently more popular than the president online.
Joining us tonight to talk about these things and so much more is Decoy Voice.
I'm wearing my Ukraine tie, my Ukraine pin, which I've been wearing because they're in dire straits right now. Every week, every month that passes without new aid Ukraine means fewer artillery shells, fewer air defense systems, fewer tools for Ukraine to defend itself against this Russian onslaught. Just what Putin wants.
Now, I simply can't recall a single time a president anywhere, has preached to his own people while decked out in another country's drip, demanding $60 billion of their tax dollars be sent to the country that he's currently representing, like some NASCAR driver proudly sporting his corporate sponsors. I was actually looking for this clip of Biden's brain shutting down during the CNN town hall, but when you go to search for it, there's a sea of senility to look through. So I just chose to go with the time Biden randomly decided to ride his jetpack when being asked questions. And the craziest part is nobody really wanted to address this, which really goes to show how little his so-called friends and family actually care about his well-being. Because if I, Decoy Voice, made a public appearance and I know I'd get several calls, texts, and even comments on my videos asking, "Hey man, are you okay? It kinda looks like you just went blank there." Because no matter whatever career goals you have, your health is always going to outrank your work. Unless, if you step down, it gets replaced with because honestly, this image looks like he's photoshopped, but this image right after equally looks photoshopped. Or at the very least, an animatronic Muppet from a low-budget Ninja Turtles movie. So what do you think they have Biden on? Because it always looks like whenever he does something weird on camera, they pump him up full of something to pull him out of hiding until he looks like Mr. Hyde. Because his staff now refers to him as a big boy.
Big boy press conference, a big boy press conference, hold a press conference, a big boy press conference.
Guess a big boy press conference? It's the big boy press conference, I think.
As he basically can't remember anybody.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway.
Which even his billion-dollar beneficiary got a kick out of. So they delayed his big boy speech not once, but twice, where he immediately made a worse but similar mistake.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
To which Trump immediately took to social media to point out how scary it is that the president can't tell the difference between his vice president and campaign rival, but no more terrifying than an actual VP Trump-Harris. Of course they're terrified of what he'll say off of memory.
Look like America. And it does. More minorities, more women, more labor. I'm serious, think about it. That's who we are, that's why we're strong, we're diverse, we're strong. We gotta stop looking at it like it's a problem. It's an asset.
And it's hilarious how each media member panicked differently, as it looked like someone was tackling a struggling camera guy, but the sound guy couldn't mute all the mics, so they finally severed the entire feed, which makes it really hard to believe that Biden is a big boy when they won't even let him speak. Because when he does, he's seemingly calling the NATO chief an intellectual... what?
He's a man of integrity, an intellectual rigor, a calm temperament.
And I love how the sign language girl hears wigger and immediately goes into finger guns, because I don't think there's an official sign language symbol for that word, and if she's making it up on the fly, then I mean, give her the biggest bonus for being able to translate Bidenese to English to sign language all in split seconds, because it took the White House hours to figure out that he meant to say intellectual rigor, to which if the Democrats are really serious about having him step down against his will, his speechwriters should have him repeatedly say Biden's rigor, because when he messes that one up on live television, then it's officially over for him.
There you go.
So I don't know about you, but if I was 3 months away from retiring from Pepsi, and if all my employees at Pepsi betrayed me, ending my career early, I'd probably start pushing Coke, and no, I don't mean like Hunter.
Let Trumpomania run wild, brother! Let Trumpomania rule again!
And Biden immediately quit his campaign for president, making way for her, the new leader of the Democrat Party. Although this literally looks like a scene from a sitcom or reality television, none of what I just showed you was a lie. And worse yet, future kids in elementary school will likely learn about how Trumpomania ended the presidential campaign of the so-called most popular president in history to make way for a talk show host's ex-girlfriend, or how a bullet hit Trump in the face but somehow ended up killing the other guy's career. So when Beyonce and what looked like 3 kids trying to sneak into a movie only spoke for a few minutes with zero musical performance. As soon as Beyonce walked off stage, disgruntled Harris supporters immediately began to walk out just as Kamala started her scripted caramblings. Then several people that stayed started to boo. Which brings us outside the event. Apparently she was too busy doing the Call Her Daddy podcast. And in case you don't know what Call Her Daddy is about,
the IP, that is Call Her Daddy. Like, if we leave, there's no more Call Her Daddy. We can't refer to you guys as Daddy Gang anymore. There's no I'm unwell, there's no Gluck Gluck, there's no Degrade Me, there's no Little Boys, like nothing. It's dead, and we have to go come up with an entire new show, and we can't use any of those terms.
I honestly have no problem with the Call Her Daddy podcast, as at one point they were even beating Joe Rogan's show, and Alex's approach to editing a podcast was revolutionary for her niche. I just think most voters would want their president to address the millions of Americans currently suffering over going on a show that trademarked Degrade Me and Gluck Gluck. But it makes sense that a president best known for the back of his head would have a VP best known for the top of hers.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's? That's a hard one. What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
Her being president.
Really excited for her to restore reproductive rights across America. How do you think she'll go about doing that? I don't know. What a fun question. I don't know. I'm picking and choosing. I mean...
So, you have to look at it broadly, right? It's about what she stands for right now.
It's literally like watching NPCs trying to speak off script, because these aren't just normal liberal voters off the street. These are the people that are sacrificing their free time to go to Chicago and attend the DNC to see their favorite Democrats. And even if the biggest supporters of liberal politics can't seem to articulate why they support the Democrats, I don't think you have a voter base, I think you have simps. So why exactly is Donald Trump doing press conferences and rallies while wearing a garbage man getup? And more importantly, what is President Joe Biden doing during all of this? He's apparently biting babies. And that wasn't the only one, he bit another. The Daily Mail pointed out how he gave a third baby a nip in the toe, but then he just kept biting babies all night. As this is probably the most insane October surprise in all of history. I don't know what's crazier, the fact that Biden is out biting babies, or the fact that since this article was written he went out and bit more babies, or that the most accurate news about our baby-biting commander-in-chief is coming from a weird Asian dude in a Sasquatch suit on Halloween. We truly live in the strangest timeline, because the weirdest headline of today should have been about the billionaire that lost his job at McDonald's to become a garbage man. Because what does Kamala's campaign have to offer? Rappers twerking on stage, parroting Harris's same debunked talking points.
Now I know my ladies in the crowd love their body. Real hot girl. And if you want to keep loving your body, you know who to go for. Hey!
And outright lies their audience just eats up.
It's also the same place to launch the first African-American woman to run for president.
There is absolutely no part of Kamala Harris that is African American, and I don't know which reality is worse. The one where her voter base is simply going to allow Netflix levels of race swapping, or that her voter base thinks either Jamaica or India is part of the African continent. Why does Kamala Harris sound like this in Pittsburgh?
Thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time.
When she sounded like this in Detroit just a few hours earlier.
You better thank a union member. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
What's a big idea chasing my worm? You're a cat, son. Cats don't eat worms.
So how exactly does an Indian woman raised in upper-class Palo Alto, California and Montreal, Canada develop a foghorn leghorn style speech pattern that only surfaces when she's speaking in certain areas? As anybody with more than a shoe-sized IQ knows that nobody actually cares to hear Harris speak. Meanwhile, on the other side, Trump is setting podcast records just having regular conversations with the host of Fear Factor. But she needs to stop worrying about him and more about her own supporters who currently hate later.
And everyone has a right to be heard, but right now I am speaking. Look, everybody has a right to be heard, but right now I am speaking. As your president, I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions.
As that wasn't the first time she got heckled for war crimes by her own audience.
This future. And we understand the opportunity we have before us to turn the page on the fear
as Kamala even got booed in a black church.
we carry.
It went so badly, she even brought out a new accent I call Martine Luther Cream.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning.
Because Kamala's campaign is desperate to spin how dislikable she is to everybody, but Gen Z specifically.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
As ABC states, she's embracing the memes, where there's suddenly this TikTok trend of teens dancing to a remix of Kamala's cackles. Which something about this just seems incredibly inorganic, especially when an influencer came forward stating they received an email about being compensated to support Harris on social media.
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. and you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
And it's sad, as even in front of an audience of her supporters, her cackling is even off-putting to them, as there is literally zero substance as to what she's saying, where every Kamala Harris speech sounds like it was written by that iPhone autofill predictive text bot, and I can't be convinced otherwise.
What are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
So, when I talk about building an opportunity economy, it is very much with the mind of investing in the ambitions and aspirations and the incredible work ethic of the American people.
Which sounds like a decent enough answer, except that wasn't her real response.
What are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
So, when I talk about building an opportunity, I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard.
Which is just more Kamala Harris nonsense, as it's the same response she gave at the debate.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So, I was raised as a middle-class kid.
And as bad as having a candidate that literally only has 2 or 3 statements they randomly read off whenever asked a question, it's still infinitely better than when she weirdly repeats the question, repeats that sentence that sounds like she's speaking in a gypsy curse, then caps it off with her signature Kamala cackles. As we super fast forward through all the footage they uploaded, which this might even be an edited version of the interview.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
It was only 11 minutes, and the stuff they still kept was nonsense.
New ideas, new policies that are directed at the current moment. And also, to be very honest with you, my focus is very much in what we need to do over the next 10, 20 years to catch up to the 21st century around, again, capacity, but also challenges.
Hello, fellow American. This you should vote. Me. I leave power. Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Which this is sitcom levels of sad, as let's read back what she actually said. My focus is very much about what we need to do over the next 10 to 20 years to catch up to the 21st century around, again, capacity, but also challenges. We used to have to translate Bidenese to English on this channel because Biden was obviously suffering from something related to his age. I don't know what Kamala's excuse could be, other than looking like a nervous second grader giving a book report on a chapter that she never read, played by Michael Cera.
How are you feeling about Pennsylvania?
I am feeling very good about Pennsylvania because there are a lot of people in Pennsylvania.
And the question was, how are you feeling about Pennsylvania? And her answer was, I am feeling very good about Pennsylvania because there are a lot of people in Pennsylvania. But again, that brain-dead response is still better than when she's saying straight, verifiable lies.
And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. What? But let's understand.
So where the f are we right now?
As that wasn't the only one either.
We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory. I will not ban fracking. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
So the ongoing meme is, Kamala's made enough contradicting statements that she could actually debate herself. Now normally a candidate can't do this because the media should call you out for your hypocrisy, but Kamala can do all this in the open because she's the establishment's candidate, where no matter what she says or does, it's always painted in a positive light. From the off-putting, slightly psychotic laughing labeled as joy, softball interviews being edited down to the size of a TikTok, and debates literally being run by your campaign donors and moderated by your sorority sister. It's so incredibly easy to look good under these circumstances, and somehow she still manages to look awful, but more for her traditional audience of liberal men, where the Democrats seem to target a specific type of guy. And this even comes from the top of their party, to which does bear a striking resemblance to other popular male figures. As CNN just openly admits, they are now the party for men with low T.
Trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy.
Based on voting history, it's been a known fact that liberalism has basically become feminine energy. If only women voted, landslide victories for the Democrats, and if only men voted, landslide victories for the Republicans. But for the first time, it really seems like the Democrats are almost utilizing that fact as a strategy. Isn't masculinity scary? Why be your own man when your government can be the faux father figure that takes care of you all the way past adulthood?
Republicans feared the most last night was the joy.
It's interesting to know the last time a political party tried to march behind joy.
After causing catastrophic inflation, Comrade Kamala announced that she wants to institute socialist price controls. You saw that. Never worked before, never ever worked.
So Comrade Kamala for her communist vision for the country, Chameleon Harris for her Netflix levels of race swapping, or the aspiring cackler-in-chief, none of those nicknames really matter when the name they're most offended by is Kamala. Is that the correct pronunciation? I don't know, and honestly I don't respect her enough to learn it. I don't say most English words correctly, and for the Party of Diversity and Inclusion to not respect my very clearly Asian accent, I is offended.
Regarding the abolishment of ICE, leading Democratic leaders like Kamala Harris.
And real quick, I just want to point out what a sitting Congresswoman's enunciation of Kamala Harris is.
Like Kamala Harris.
As I was told this was racist.
The hate campaign against Kamala Harris has begun. You'll notice they purposefully pronounce her name wrong. They say Kamala. They do it all the time. It is on purpose. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris was talking about this.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
So if their own team doesn't know how to pronounce the second highest ranking member of their own party, why would they expect everybody else to? It's not like anybody was doing it to be unnecessarily mean. It's because nobody liked her enough to even bother learning her name.
Vice President Cheney's been the most dangerous vice president we've had probably in American history.
So after calling Cheney the most dangerous vice president we've had in American history, he's now endorsing Harris.
Dick Cheney will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Which Kamala seems to be proud of.
Actually, I'm honored to have their endorsement, and I think that what they both, as leaders who are well respected, are making an important statement.
And again, it really doesn't seem like she has any actual values, as they've been calling Cheney and his Republican circle war criminals since the Bush administration. And suddenly, because he's switched sides, he's alright. all sins can be forgiven if you accept Harris as your warlord and savior of eternal military spending. As the Democrats now celebrate getting Dick Cheney, bragging about how Mitt Romney won't support Donald Trump, and even reposting how Mike Pence won't vote Republican for president. What the Democrats fundamentally don't understand is the more establishment Republicans endorse Harris, the more I don't want her in office, as I don't care about what Republicans, conservatives, or what any label thinks. I just want my leaders to put America first.
He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
The future and America. Now, I may have lost my train of thought several minutes ago, but if I continue to talk like this, no one will notice it.
So only 26 minutes into this interview, Kamala's goon said stop.
And
They're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, I'm talking like 4 people waving their hands, like, it's
You
gotta
could tell.
stop.
Stop! He's already dead.
In her first Big Boy interview, Kamala's team actually had to throw in the towel, as this wasn't a basketball podcast, a rap radio show, or the many sex podcasts that she's done. This was on Fox News, who I've long accused of being the true controlled opposition, and even then she just exposed how incapable she is of being a leader, as this was just Bret Baier. What happens if this was our allies angry over our lies? Will she still bring up Trump then? Or what about our enemies threatening us with nukes? Because I don't think her middle-class background can stop World War III. And that's not the face you want one step away from being commander-in-chief, even if the corporate media tries to relabel his panicked ineptitude as passion. But I guess his passion didn't save him from the spanking he must have received from Kamala's team, as he didn't seem to be walking with much joy today. And did Tim get paddled for his poor interview performance? Probably not, but neither did his military rank, Tiananmen Square attendance, and IVF treatments. But unlike those outright lies, at least Walz getting paddled is actually probable, because while Trump was actually assisting in Georgia as hundreds of lives were lost, Kamala was busy recording an episode of the Call Her Daddy podcast talking about tampons.
I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use? I'm curious, like, you don't do too many long form interviews. What made you want to do Call Her Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real. You know, and to talk about the things that people really care about.
Yes, this show covers the real issues that voters care about, like the episode right before Kamala, providing in-depth discussions about how to inhale his front tail, or when Katy Perry went on and they discussed putting your eater on his Peter, or the other episode about being with 2 dudes at the same time, or the episode before that about cheating on your significant other, like Harris's husband, or the episode before that also about cheating on your significant other, like Harris's husband. As before Kamala came on, the show looked more like this.
And they go like,
And it's like, you go like,
And even when they at least tried to talk politics on the Call Her Daddy podcast, they clearly have no idea what they're talking about.
and can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision?
I know what you're gonna ask.
About a man's body. Let's
No.
just pause.
No.
Is there any law?
No.
As everybody in the comment section complained about how they conveniently forgot about the military draft. You know, the law that only applies to men. That's why I think this new wave of liberalism is fundamentally incompatible with something like masculinity, as they're trying to shoehorn in diversity and inclusion into absolutely everything, not understanding that although masculinity can include anybody that exhibits masculine behavior, but validating every behavior for the sake of diverse representation alienates the people that are actually part of the group you're trying to attract. As whenever they try to pretend to be masculine, it never feels genuine. Like the time they had Tim changing his carburetor without a speck of grease on his hands. Then they tried to make a big deal about Tim Walz going out hunting birds with the men in his brand new hunting clothes, looking like he's never touched a rifle in his entire life, despite constantly lying about being a command sergeant major, when Tim should be free to be whatever this is. Kamala Harris went on the Stephen Colbert show, desperately trying to look relatable, drinking a beer like she's never seen a can before.
Okay, cheers.
There you go.
But then randomly goes into this new Jamaican accent.
Have you no empathy, man? You know, for the suffering of other people, have you no sense of purpose?
I rip and I rhyme. I rhyme and I rip. This is the way that Dylan spits.
At least this one's somewhat believable, as her father was Jamaican, unlike when she adopted her Hood Harris persona,
You better thank a union member for vacation time.
or worse, her Senorita Kamaya accent,
Oh, I love you back.
or from her original Vice President Porpoise sound.
It was a debate.
As this is the National Association for Black Journalists questioning Trump.
You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they asked are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist.
Compared to their question for Kamala.
Why is joy important to you to insert into this election?
This is beyond North Korean propaganda, beyond Babylon Bee parody. This is asking one candidate, why are you such a raging racist? Then asking the other candidate, why are you so joyful? But that's okay. Kamala bolstered her rally by inviting the rapper Lizzo.
They say if Kamala wins, then the whole country will be like Detroit.
That's a great claim to make. Make America exactly like this place. Billions of dollars in debt, top 5 in murders in America, and number 1 in unemployment at over 8% with the largest increase in the country. So now it kinda makes sense why at least one of these candidates always looks exhausted. While you have one side shouting and wagging their finger in your face because they don't see your support, we see Trump going back to his old reality TV roots.
We can't stand you. You're a vice president. The worst. You're the worst vice president. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired.
The government should not be telling her what to do.
Because oddly, she isn't the only Democrat that does this.
Trampling on our way of life.
Nobody you know actually speaks like this, and for someone to even emulate how that sounds, you'd have to be rewatching old videos from the civil rights era and think, yes, that's the persona that people want for president. Vice President Kamala Harris doesn't do press conferences, but she will do softball interviews on a basketball podcast.
One of my guilty pleasures, especially when I'm on the road, are my Doritos.
Oh, what flavor?
Nacho. Old school, original.
OG,
Come on.
yeah.
But something tells me at least Stack wasn't buying all of Karambola's answers.
My best friend from kindergarten is still one of my best friends.
That's crazy.
Right? Stacey Johnson.
Yeah, that's dope.
As you see him rolling his eyes here, but it immediately jump cuts to him smiling and nodding, which means they went back through over 45 minutes of interview and still had to sneakily splice together an edit to try to paint Harris in a positive light. When she recently posted on Twitter about her taking a break from fundraising to work on responding to Hurricane Helene, still wearing that ridiculous necklace with her phone on the table showing that her headphones are plugged into nothing, while the pages she's working on are all blank. Just look at her VP pick Tim's Twitter post about going to a football game. He's up there cheering from his suite while nothing is actually happening on the field, out there pointing to the fans that could literally care less about him and whatever this is. And obviously lying about a football game isn't the biggest deal, but it does make you wonder, if they have to fake everything about being a football fan, what won't they lie about?
Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
So then the Associated Press rushed out to write, Trump is falsely suggesting Harris misled voters about her race. Never mind the fact that Trump is just saying the same things that they themselves have reported. So the Twitter replies were hilarious, as being Indian is something that even she previously embraced.
The first senator of Indian American heritage.
And I'm really glad to be here.
To become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Yes.
You are Indian.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that. Everyone's like, you know Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about.
And Vivek Ramaswamy, who shares Kamala's background, finds this sudden turn insulting.
On a very personal level, my parents were immigrants to this country, legal immigrants from southern India. Very same part of India that her mother also immigrated from. I think it's a hard fact, Martha, it's just a fact, whether you like it or not, that many Indian Americans in the United States are indeed somewhat offended by the way Kamala has suddenly cast aside the Indian American side of her identity. She leaned into it when she ran for office in California. Big Asian American and Indian American population. So she wore that when it was convenient. She's wearing a different identity now when it's politically convenient on a national stage.
But apparently, being racial fluid is now perfectly acceptable.
She wants to be known as black, so I didn't know, is she Indian or is she black? Wow. She has always, this is unclear. I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't because she was Indian all the way and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she went black. Your response to those comments?
As a person of color, as a black woman who is in this position that is standing before you at this podium behind this lectern, what he just said, what you just read out to me is repulsive, it's insulting, and you know, no one has any right to tell someone who they are, how they identify. That is no one's right. It is someone's own decisions.
And I always despise the whole lived experience argument. It just seems like a way to say, I may be objectively wrong, but my recollection of the past says that you're a racist. And then Tim said this.
I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look.
It was so off-putting and strange, he was even tracked down and asked about it immediately after.
Your strongest moment was tonight.
Oh, just, I think it was a good debate. The public got to see a contrast. And I think the ending sums it up. The democracy issue is important.
Governor, you said you become friends with school shooters during the debate. Can you clarify what you meant on that?
Can you clarify what you meant when you said you'd be friends with school shooters?
So it's not like he couldn't hear them, because obviously he answered the question before it, and it's not like it didn't happen, as everybody online is talking about it, including everybody in that room with Tim. And instead of just clearing it up and saying, it's a 90-minute televised debate, I messed up and meant to say, I've befriended a lot of school victims, or made friends at schools that teach how to shoot safely. I don't know, just anything that isn't literally hiding behind your wife. It is, yeah, that's the most updated thing, I think. I think he's going to get 300, like the New York Times says he's going to get 312. That's what I believe.
So we got Oakland County in right now, and Harris wins this thing by about 10.5 points. How does that compare to 2020? Well, that's down from what Joe Biden was able to do in Oakland County in 2020. He was able to win it by 14. It comes down, by about 3.5 points.
Listen
now,
to him. Just listen to him.
The test would be Oakland, the margin Democrats get out of Oakland County.
And it may be shocking to know, but this is still our president wandering off into the jungle. Which would be hilarious if this was just a Field of Dreams ending for Biden. And it actually checks out, because Biden basically appeared out of nowhere in late 2020 to take a presidency from Trump while we had a Democrat Senate, with Trump's original cabinet of swamp creatures still intact, while the COVID lockdowns were still in effect. So Corn Pop wanders from the cornfields to tank the economy, starts several new wars, and basically broadcasts the corruption right in your face, then ends his presidency wearing a MAGA hat and calling Americans garbage. I'm not saying Biden purposely set us up for 4 years of prosperity, but his entire presidency was basically a campaign for Trump, which secured Trump a landslide victory in all the swing states and the popular vote, bringing us back into an era of America First. We just took 366 days and smashed it into a 3-hour montage of constant nonsense, but hopefully you had as much fun watching it as I did making these videos, as doom scrolling is only doom scrolling if you're doing it alone, and with the community we have in every comment section in every video, all the stupidity of social media, the outright lies from the news media, and everything else that would normally annoy us seems to not be as big of a deal when we know there are more normal people just like us than the idiots that typically go viral online. So here's to a successful 2024 and wishing you and all your loved ones a happy and healthy 2025. And if you watch this entire video, I hope I earned your subscription by now, or at least a share with some of your friends, as next year we're gonna shock the entire world and get this one-man show with a bootleg Sub-Zero looking, Christopher Walken talking, non-math Asian to 1 million subscribers.